Jigs and Bigs is proud to announce we're being supported by Old Glory Outdoors. They're a veteran-owned company that carries fishing and hunting gear. Plus, they're highly active in supporting veteran organizations and charities. Old Glory is an authorized dealer of favorite rods, FX rods, Guggen baits, X-Zone lures, Sixth Sense, and many more. There's a brick-and-mortar store located in East Brookfield, Massachusetts, but you can also order online at oldgloryoutdoors.com. They ship anywhere in the lower 48 states or order online and pick up at the store. When you order, use the promo code JIGS and Bigs and you'll save 10% off your complete order. Plus, you'll help support the show. Make sure to check out the apparel line called OGO Gear while you're there. Old Glory Outdoors believes in the slogan "Start 'em young" to keep kids away from screens and enjoying nature. They've got a full array of live bait too. Check out oldgloryoutdoors.com and use the promo code JIGS and Bigs. Save some money and gear up now.
Are you getting yourself ready for our show?
All right, everybody, it's Tuesday. That means it's Jigs and Bigs Day. Time to get your fix of all the fishing, entertainment, and education you can muster in somewhere between an hour and a half and 3 hours some weeks. Anyway, guys, we have an amazing episode this week. We've got open water officially in the valley right now, but that didn't stop Mother Nature from kicking us a nice 15-degree overnight last night. It's the adventure. We're in the lion portion right now of March. Sean got out in the water, gave the new vessel its paces, and he's on the board for 2021. We'll talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about some of Bobby Roast Beef's adventures out with his good buddy. We're gonna go over sort of the wins and fails of all that, but a whole lot of fun has been had. We're excited. Spring is in the air. Nature is just kind of happening all over the place. We're gonna go ahead, get yourselves comfortable, guys. We got a great show for you. Got a couple of things, some tirades here and there that we're gonna cover. Some serious, some not so serious, and of course, as always, you know, we've got a great interview segment this week. We have Cody Jennings from JIGMASTERS. When in doubt, get the damn jig out. And he'll explain why, and does a great job doing so. Guys, go ahead, get yourself comfortable. Maybe grab yourself a hot cup of coffee. Maybe an adult beverage if you're out of work, or maybe just want to hang out on the porch and just I don't know, rip some Newports and get loud. You can do whatever you want, guys. It's your moment. Okay, guys. Well, it's Tuesday. It's Tuesday, and not all of the water locally is covered by sheets of ice. We have open water. Spring has sprung, and then as soon as it sprung, it dropped down to the teens overnight last night. So I mean, that's how it is in New England. This is kind of what we roll with. But things are looking to pick up pretty good later in the week. Sean the Fisherman is with me. We got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about today. I didn't realize actually how jam-packed this show was until we kind of started talking before hitting record and kind of putting all of our ducks in a row of how things were going to go. So, Sean, how you doing this morning, dude?
You brought up ducks.
I did bring up ducks. Yes, I did.
Guess we'll get into it later, but I familiarized myself with a couple of ducks this weekend.
Oh, indeed. In fact, I was it was your news of your waterfowl adventures that inspired a meme that I put together that has been getting ridiculous traffic, absolutely ridiculous, and I love it. I love the internet. What can I say?
What did we do without it?
I know.
I don't remember.
I know it's a little bit ridiculous, but I want to take a minute right here before we kind of jump anywhere else to jump in and do a little bit of a shout out for some listeners that are real close to us. These are our listeners that are they're our jig heads. They're over on Patreon, and they're subscribers to the bonus content that we have over there. So they get the live video access when we record this kind of stuff. Just want to give a shout out to some of the members who are here. We've got Jay Manning is one of our early adopters. We got Nelson DaCosta. We've got Brady. Brady's one of our jig heads. He has Although, Brady, I think, is on the West Coast. Our 9 a.m. recordings might be a little too early for him. Delirious Angler, of course. We've got Rodney, R&R Outdoors. We've also got Vidal. I think it's Iniguez. We've got Roadkill Nick, of course. Eric Graves. Andy Quinn, one of our jig heads. Jerry Howes. Brian O'Hanlon. Brian is one of the jig heads that had just commented and left something up on here. Said he's on the struggle bus today. I'm sure he's going to chime in a little bit. We've got Damien over at Stretching Lines and Berkshire Brett. So just want to give a shout out to some of our jig heads. If you guys are interested in becoming a jig head and getting this early access where you can comment and do your jump in and kind of be part of the conversation with us over here, you can do so just by going over to jigsandbigs.com and clicking the button that says Become a Patron. It's simple. $5 a month, you can join, and that goes directly to support us to do a lot. It lets us kind of get a lot of things done. I didn't realize the amount of growth, Sean, that we had done, both equipment-wise with various projects for Jigs and Bigs, but it's pretty crazy. Like new tech, like the computer that's allowing us to do this and the live streams that much smoother. We got a little manufacturing thing that's going on. We've got there's a lot of things happening in the Jigs and Bigs kitchen, so to speak, and it's really crazy. So that's the kind of stuff that the jig heads are really helping happening. It allows us sort of a little bit of freedom to upgrade things and get a little bit more adventurous with what we're doing for content. So we appreciate you guys, all of you. And if you'd like to become one of the jig heads, just go ahead and visit our website, jigsbigs.com, become a patron. You can be good to go. We mentioned Instagram. We're like a hair away from the 9,000 followers mark on Instagram. Hello. I remember a couple of months ago, I was thinking, when I started this, my goal was always to get to that 10K so that we could share links, and it definitely still is. I never thought we were going to be this close, though, within a year. Like, this is amazing. And I think we're going to get to that 10K by April? Probably not. But I'm fine with that. I think this is a huge, huge amount of followers. So big shout out to everybody over there, that's been following us on Instagram. That is absolutely huge. Appreciate you guys. And what else? There was something else I mentioned I was going to talk about, Sean, and I forgot regarding housekeeping. What was it?
St. Patty's
Day. All right, everybody. So this is a real rare opportunity. We're recording this on a Monday. It drops on Tuesday morning. Wednesday evening, we're doing another live stream on the Jigs and Bigs YouTube channel and the Jigs and Bigs Facebook page. The Jigs and Bigs Facebook it's gotten actually, I'll bet you, I'll have to go out and say, honestly, the majority of the traffic that's going on over there is with these live streams. When we do the live streams over on Facebook, we get a lot of viewers over there. We've been getting subscribers over on YouTube, but the amount that are from Facebook are just insane. That was smooth.
So now I owe everyone an explanation on that. Whenever we record, I put my phone on, what is it? Do not disturb.
Yep.
Because I don't want that, but phone calls will still get through. So I just sent a message to a buddy about grabbing lunch later today, and he decided that a call was necessary to do it. And for whatever reason, for years and years and years, I've been using either snippets of heavy metal songs or just really, honestly, the most obnoxious ringtones I can. And then for whatever reason, based on the entire smooth jazz conversation from a couple months ago with Largemouth Sass, I have made all my alerts
Weather Channel
some variation of smooth jazz. So sorry about that.
As it should
and hopefully
be.
He doesn't. Yeah, hopefully he doesn't call back. If he does call back, I'm making him pay for all the Chipotle, not just half today.
There you go. It's perfect.
But
sorry.
So I just derailed you on the same.
That's okay, because I got it all right up here. I'm on track. I'm running. I'm like a well-oiled machine. I'm greasy.
You're greasy and you're strong like a coiled cheetah.
Yeah, there you go. But it's nice to be able to actually go and say that, yes, on St. Patrick's Day, what I think we're going to do 8 o'clock, we're going to do another live stream. And the last one was absolutely huge. We had I think the most, we had 10 or 11 people at one time. And it was just a revolving door of all kinds of guests. I mean, we had Wild Bill in there. We had Delirious. We had Cody Van Zant multiple times, by the way. Multiple times we had Cody jump in there.
I was going to say about Cody, it was more like 9.5 to 10.5 because this was the equivalent of Cody's conversation. Hey, guys, I'm back. I finally got signal. But fuck!
Basically
3 minutes of silence.
Yeah, basically
then the same thing would happen.
He'd disappear. I wasn't sure if he was intently listening at somebody at some point or another, but it was awesome. Then we had a bunch of YouTubers in there too. We had Todd Grubbs. We had Debo was with us. I mean, we had a ton of people. Swamp Rat jumped on, and we had such a good time. And I'll tell you that. I think that live stream will go down in infamy, and I love that. I really love that. But so St. Patrick's Day, we're doing another one. I've got the night off. We're just going to go and have some fun. It's going to be both on our YouTube and on our Facebook pages. You can check that out. And we're working on the list of like who's going to be on there. I've been messaging and DMing some folks that maybe didn't make it last time that want to jump in. I have a couple of people that may want to jump in voice only because where they're at that time of day, they're not like wanting to be on camera, I guess. I don't know. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know if they're at work. I don't know what's happening. But anyway, it's going to be a whole lot of fun. I did some fishing this weekend. I actually got out a couple of times, short trips because, it was ridiculously cold and windy as hell. Sean did some fishing this week and had a great time with it.
Why don't you go first? Because
you want me to go first?
My story has a dip of tragedy in the middle of it.
This is true. So yeah. I will go first. So I had been all week long planning on going out over the weekend with my buddy Paul, and the idea in my mind, if we didn't have any local open water, my plan was that we were going to go and hit a couple of rivers and do some trout fishing. That was sort of like the backup plan. But what was it? Was it Wednesday evening? I think it was Wednesday evening. There was one pond I had gone to just to kind of scout before I went to work, and I saw that was open water, and there was like it's very wide open in the area where this was. So I would expect this to be one of the first to thaw. It doesn't have any land blocking, sun at weird hours or anything like that. So it gets direct sunlight all day long. And I was like, okay, well, this is a good thing. All right, we're looking good. And then later on in the day, what was it? No, it was sometime on Friday. I was running errands. I had to bring the dog to the vet. And I was, running errands. I was like, well, let me buzz by this little pond over here and I'll see what's up over there. Wide open. I was like, this is on. Game on. So Saturday morning's going to happen. Friday night after trivia, I jumped out into the car and was like, it's getting pretty chilly. Knowing it was going to get pretty chilly, but also being relieved that the rain was not going to be hammering us the way previous forecasts had led me to believe. And we got out. We went to one of our regular sort of spots and threw a couple lures around and had no luck whatsoever. It was a good time, but then we opted to essentially really go and grab some breakfast and warm up. And we're sitting there at the table with our hands wrapped around our coffee mugs like this because it was that cold, and there were multiple references of the Gilmore Girls, to which I said, Paul, you need to start a fishing Instagram now and call yourself and I the Gilmore Guys. Gilmore Guys.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, you see? I think I'm like, that would be awesome. So that was Saturday. Took my youngest daughter out for a birthday dinner that night. Had a great time. She had a blast. This is her second pandemic birthday. Kind of crazy. I
didn't think about that. My two were going to have the same thing.
Yeah. I was like, so this is her second pandemic birthday. She had an awesome time, brought her out for dinner. My oldest had a birthday celebration for one of her friends. So I was just kind of all over the place Saturday night, picking kids up and dropping them off and stuff. Sunday, I was not planning on going and getting any fishing done. And my kids had a babysit. And so I brought them over to my sister's place. And on the way there, another one of the local ponds that I could have swore I just went by a few days ago, and it was just complete ice. Like total, there was nothing open on it at all. Because you can see this from the road pretty well. And it's one of these things where I sort of expected it to be the last place to kind of open up at all. And I went by and I saw it. I was just like, well, no kidding. All right. So I dropped them off. I spent about an hour and a half there. Went to the northwest corner of the pond and got nothing but, man, like crystal clear water. And the grass is already starting to grow. Like I was ripping some up with my chatterbait and like bright green, fresh growth, you know? And it's like, it's amazing. Like nature is happening. Spring has officially sprung. Get ready. So fun stuff. Now, yeah, and that was me. What about you?
Well, I'm gonna start with yesterday, just real quick, because yesterday, I had some work to do at the table yesterday. I was doing some stuff for the NCAA tournament.
Oh,
that's all I want to say about that. But I was looking out the window at the pond, and the ice, because there's a flow to my pond, it flows to my house. The ice had made its way down to this end, and it was probably about 50% of the lake was still covered with thin ice, and then by the time we got home, we had gone out to Worcester to grab a bite to eat. My wife and my kids, there's a place they like to eat out there. So we shot out there, and I was keeping my eyes open on the ride. What is that? I can't see it.
It's a meme that Brian O just sent. I'll read you what the buttons say. The buttons say, stick with the broken live stream. The other one says, end it and try again.
Very good, Brian.
Oh, you win a prize. Great, you know what?
Brian actually just sent me a message before we started, so he knows what his prize is. He was getting it anyways, but that's fine. So on the way out to Worcester, I made sure we actually took Route 20 out and took the nice scenic road, the scenic drive.
Yeah.
And everything was open. I mean, very few places still had that south, sheet of ice on less than 25% of the pond. A couple of them were, that were really shaded, had a lot more, but it wasn't many. So the big bodies were all opened up. So I'm starting fishing this week. I'm all psyched.
Nice. That's awesome.
So one thing I did notice, and I want to go on my tirade. You and I each have a tirade loaded up.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to go on my tirade real quick. So one of the water bodies we drove by was wind sheltered, had a little bit of ice on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just can't harp on this enough. Like, as a fisherman, and the way I want to see this sport grow, I don't want to see people die while fishing.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that legit? Is that like a legit concern?
Fair.
Like
that's a fair concern.
Yeah. So on one pond we went by, there was a guy sitting in a wind sheltered area in what looked to be a 10 or 8 foot recreational kayak, wearing jeans and a sweatshirt with no PFD. I guarantee that guy wasn't wearing anything underneath it. He obviously didn't have a dry suit on. That guy, one gust of wind wrong and he's dead.
Yeah.
Because I saw where he was compared to the shore. And, what is it, 30 minutes or 20 minutes for hypothermia to kick in and take your life? I mean, look.
It's true.
You and I have talked about this over and over again over the winter about buy a wetsuit. Buy those 2-piece wetsuits. It's under $100. It will save your life. Is your life worth $100? I consider my life to be actually worth $70. That's what I paid for that shit.
So it's
with Amazon Prime.
It's funny you mentioned that because Bill Galekis, who follows us on Instagram, he's got a YouTube channel, and for those that don't know him, he's a kayak fisherman. He's located in Central Mass. He's got a handful of episodes on there. I recommend you check him out. It's really, really good stuff. And he's given us multiple shout outs on the show. Like, I appreciate you, Bill. Thank you. But he did something about kayak safety in his last episode. And he made a really good analogy when he was talking about dry suits specifically. He said, if you need to get out on the water when you can't factor, when it's dangerous, meaning that rule of 120 comes into play, you need to have a dry suit. You've got to be able to keep yourself from experiencing, cold water shock and then hypothermia, anything, your life is really in your hands. It's there is an element of danger every time we go out and do what we do. Something could happen. He made a few points in there that I think are really, really great, that you want to keep in mind. And one of the things that he made was in reference to the price of, the cold water equipment. Yes, it's expensive. Yes, it's expensive, but your life is way more worth worth way more than the cost of that dry suit. So just buy the dry suit, buy the neoprene, the wetsuit, if that's the route you're going to go. Whatever it is that you're going to do, make the investment and get yourself protected, because, you can't be replaced. And especially if you've got, a family or anything that you need to take care of, you don't want to go out and risk that stuff. So that was something really good. Another thing that he had brought in, and I'm not 100% sure what the name of the product is. Hang on. I have to send Lauren a link for this.
Go ahead. I'll talk. Because
go ahead. I'll finish my thought.
I'll get into the wetsuit, dry suit real quick.
Yeah.
You go ahead and send Lauren your text. Hi, Lauren. Good morning. When you look at it, dry suits do sometimes cost the amount of a kayak. All right. What I have recommended, and I get nothing out of this other than people not dying.
Yes.
I'm recommending it's what I wear. Wetsuits, aside from keeping you warm enough to get out of the water and get out of the dangerous situation without dying, offer buoyancy. Yeah, they do. You still have to wear a PFD by law, and if you're in a tournament, and you got to wear one the whole time you're in a tournament. But it offers buoyancy.
It's funny that you say that, because one of the things that Bill had said in his video is that in Massachusetts, within certain months of the year, you're required to wear your PFD. Yeah. I know you're always required to have it on the boat to be legal, but during, I think up until like May 15th, I think it's May 15th.
September 15th to May 15th. So September 15th to May 15th, you have to have a PFD on if you're fishing cold water. Yeah. So all of the fall and up until May, and yesterday was a great example of somebody breaking the law and risking their life, and I get pissed off at that. It's so common sense at this point. But again, we have a lot of anglers that came into the field starting last year because really it was the only thing a lot of sportsmen could do. Yeah, you can't go. I don't know if you noticed. Have you did Holyoke do this? I know my town did, and I've seen a couple others where all the basketball hoops at public places have been taken down. Just the hoops, not the rims just the rims.
Yeah, that would be a huge
backboards
undertaking.
Yeah.
I think
that's forced. Have you seen them?
I have. I think I have.
Yeah, they just, because no one, there was no point to saying, hey, everyone stay home and don't interact with each other, and then have X amount of athletes out there sweating all over each other.
True.
Makes sense. It sucks. That's the way, things went. But a lot of more people went out into the outdoors, and a lot of people went in just thinking it was like they did when they were kids. And there's the rules that are there to keep people alive and to keep the environment preserved.
Yep.
Just, they're not aware. And it's unfortunate. So I don't know. I think we've harped on enough. Either, if you can afford a dry suit, go for it. I prefer a wetsuit. It's cheaper, and I think it'll save my life. And it offers that backup buoyancy. Yeah. So like when I have that inflatable life preserver, for whatever reason, that thing malfunctions, I don't care.
So yeah, because
it's on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was actually one of the things that Bill had mentioned in there was when he talked about PFDs in his video. He had mentioned that your standard issue PFD that requires no systems to make operate in the water is always going to work. He's like, so it's like you got to have your PFD on in the cold. There was one product that he mentioned though that I thought was really cool, and it's basically like a sling ladder. What it is, it's like a climb assist type unit, and basically it's a bag with a strap that you can affix to your kayak, and inside this bag there's basically like a rope with loops so that you can climb up on. But the thing that blew my mind was the double duty that this can do, because he was talking about if you have it attached to your boat, and let's say you flip the boat and the boat's completely turtled over, it's completely flipped over. These boats are pretty heavy, and it can be challenging to and you don't have the leverage that you think you might, especially if you're in deep water. Being able to right that boat over to the right side and then climb in is difficult. And he said, even in this tool, if you throw it over to the other side, you can use it as a way to get leverage to right your boat, and then use it to go ahead and pop your foot into and give yourself. It's basically like one of these, like the 10-finger assist, like to help you get yourself up and back into your boat should you go over. It's just something that I had never even I didn't even know that was a thing. I had done my due diligence and looked up videos of how do overweight people get into their kayaks when they fall out, and there's an abundance of YouTube videos. I recommend it. it's interesting to see some of these methods. It ain't graceful, you know what I mean? But it gets the job done. And if you're in really deep water and you're really far from the bank and you're not going to be able to just push yourself over to the bank and, rectify the whole situation there, getting back in the boat is what you want to do. So if this can definitely help you, it's definitely something I'm going to look into. I think it's a great idea. And, I recommend it. Especially when you're in cold water. Especially get the hell out of it and then get off the water ASAP.
When every second matters, wetsuit, dry suit or not, you want to get in that water, you got to get out of it.
Exactly.
Yep.
So, couple of things I want to jump in here and mention is that Rodney gives us kind of the breakdown. He went for a lap around his local honey hole and they got skunked out there. Didn't care. Got the boy on a good jig training season and finally got a line wet. That's all that matters, man, as long as you're getting out there and having a good time. Rodney also asked about what wetsuit you're using, Sean. You want to give some of those information? He says he just searched on Amazon and there's lots of options. There's no shortage of options. There's lots of stuff out there.
Now it's your turn to keep talking. I'm going to bring up the exact two I bought. Yeah, I'm just going to go on Amazon right now. So you talk now.
No sweat. So another one that Jay Manning jumps in and asks about what the inflatable PFD is that you would recommend, Sean. And I know that there's a few companies. I know like Mustang is a very popular one. I think NRS does their own. Bass Pro Shops has their own models, but I'm sure somebody makes those for them. I've actually toyed around with the idea of picking up one of those as well for myself, one of the inflatables. I have the more standard like zip up style with the pockets, and I kind of really like the pockets. I do love the storage on there, but having Tyrannosaurus arms sucks. When you add that extra layer on top of already being fat, you're holding your rod out like this now. You're like, all right, cool, but it is nice because you can keep those items tethered right to you. Did you have the items there, Sean?
I do. Yes. Let's talk first about the
wetsuit?
Yeah, talk first about those. The PFD. No, the PFDs. PFDs. That was two questions on that. So the PFD I use is a Mustang right now. It's one of the inflatables. And I was using, God, I can't remember the brand. The one that I lost on Cape Cod that I've been lamenting for months. I love that one. The Mustang one's a little wider. Both of them are fine. I have no issues with either. But they are a little more expensive. Because it's not the cartridges that go bad. The CO2, obviously CO2. There's I don't know what the term for it is. There's a little like release valve that comes with it. That's the thing that has an expiration date on it. So you have to check that like every 2 years if you don't use it. So here's how I discovered that. With my old PFD, I didn't have any clue how long they lasted. And after like 2 years of using it, I just so happened to look. Or no, you know what I did? I just so happened to say, you know what? I wonder if this thing still works. And I literally put it on and just blew it off in my garage. So,
you know what? I intend on doing the same thing, like just to know what it's like.
Well, don't, because it's expensive. So know when your date is, because every time you replace that, it's $20.
Yeah. Well, no.
So I was
when I bought it, I planned on getting additional ones, just so that I could know and like be like, oh, all right. So this is what it's like. Yeah.
It's definitely a good idea to carry a spare CO2 kit. All right. But here's what happened. So that was within like 2 weeks of me blowing that off. I got a new one, a new cart. I had to order it. They didn't have any at Cabela's locally. So I ordered it. And I believe it was a 2-pack. I'm like, sweet, I'll get the 2-pack or I'll get 2 of them, whatever. That next time I went out, I had just affixed the CO2 cartridge. And
oh no, I remember you telling me about this.
Yeah. So what happens is there's two circumstances where this thing will blow off and they have to happen together. There needs to be pressure on it and it needs to be wet, because then it thinks whatever pressure sensor is in there, it goes off thinking you're in the water with water pressure, right?
Yep.
I accidentally left my paddle on top of it in the back of my truck in my kayak, and it rained on the way home. So the paddle plus the rain, and I get home and there it is, just the same way it was in my garage 2 weeks earlier. I'm like, well, there goes $20. So keep it in your, inside your cab or your car if you're going to use it. It will not go off in the rain because you don't have the pressure on top of it.
Yeah. So if you're wearing it and it rains, you don't have anything to worry about.
Yeah, I've had no issues with that. It was leaving a paddle on top of the thing and it blew off. So as far as the wetsuit, the brand I am using for the tops, okay, it's a 3mm neoprene jacket. It's on Amazon. and the brand is Hevto, spelled Hevto. So the exact description is Hevto wetsuits, tops, X men 3mm neoprene jacket, long sleeve, surfing, swimming, front zip, keep warm, and then my size because I'm a fat ass. I'm not going to say what it is. That's good enough. The pants are, and let me make sure I got this name right because this description doesn't look right. Yeah, it is. Okay, it's I'm going to butcher this. Lemorkin, Lemorrecn, and it sounds just as effed up as it looks, but it's written on the pants.
Merkin?
Lemorsin. I have no idea how to pronounce that.
Like a merkin?
So the Lemorkin, maybe. I'm sure. No,
Do you know what a merkin is?
I know damn well what a merkin is.
Okay, all right. I'm just
Lemorrecn. Wetsuit pants, 3mm neoprene swimming canoeing pants. The pants are $39, right? As of right now. And oh man, I lost it. Where's my pants? Where's my pants? And the jacket.
Where did my pants go?
The jacket is $40. Okay. So you're spending $80. One of them went up. I think I got the pants for $30 last time.
Yep.
So you're spending $80. Now, I don't know what anybody wears for footwear. That's personal preference, but muck boots. I bought those neoprene muck boots for $50. So now we're looking at $130 and I'm completely covered. And then I put a pair of rain pants over it and whatever comfy sweatshirt I want because you're sweating in that. That is warm.
It's going to keep you warm.
Yeah. So basically after those neoprene items, I put on something light that's going to shield me from the wind.
Yeah.
Which this sweatshirt gets a lot of use on it.
Yeah.
My green sweatshirt, I've got a number of sweatshirts that cut down the wind significantly. Put it over that and you're good to go and you're safe. And if you're in Massachusetts before May 15th, wear a PFD on top of it by law. That is not my call. That is the state's.
Yeah.
And if you're fishing any of the MAKB tournaments,
that's the thing.
You will wear one year round.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
The only time you're allowed to not have it on is if you're standing up to take a leak, take a sweatshirt off,
and take
a sweatshirt off while you're taking a leak.
While there may be exceptions to some tournaments, pretty much every tournament trail you have is going to insist that you have your PFD on. I mean, for the most part. So that's, kayak safety, definitely, you bring up a great point, but I think it was like the perfect storm between Bill's contribution is for, providing, it just happened to kind of line up. Maybe it was Bill you saw out on the water that day. Maybe he was shooting some B-roll of like, look at this jabroni out here flopping around on his kayak, maybe.
Well, no, because this was in Western Mass. He's central, so
okay.
I doubt he would have driven out.
Shit right there.
No, this was some Wilbraham shit right there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I can't blame Chicopee for this.
No, can't. No.
So let's go back in time, my friend. I have a tale to tell.
Let's go.
It's a trilogy on par with Lord of the Rings and the first Star Wars 3 movies.
Okay, so we're talking about a saga.
This is a saga.
Okay.
Yes, I lost my hand. I found out my father was an intergalactic villain. There was all sorts of shit going on.
New shit has come to light.
Yes. I did not make out with my sister, though. Let's make that clear. Gross. Yep. All right. So Wednesday. Wednesday was a huge.
Wednesday was a big day. Yeah, for you.
Huge. Yeah. So I'm dropping the kids off at school, and me and the Slayer wet, and we got wet.
Nice.
We did actually get wet. The wind was blowing pretty hard. There were waves coming in the boat, but I'll get into that in a second. So I went to a pond, a larger pond that I fished pretty regularly on the eastern side of the state. Drove down there. Was supposed to be meeting Ray Figueroa. Ray couldn't make it. He got tied up in work and was unable to get the day off. So it was a solo mission. So I got into the water, and again, this is my second time in my life actually fishing out of a pedal kayak. I did rent one, I don't know, a decade ago in Minnesota. It was one of the originals or whatever second year they were going. I have to think about this. It was one of the earlier models of the Hobie, and it was the only one they had to rent was a tandem. So it came with 2 of the drop-in pedal drives, and I only needed it for myself, but that was the only one they had available. So I rented that, and I've talked about the Hobie once being a little too small for me, and I ended up like smashing myself in the chin with my knees. So that was the only time I used that. I ended up paddling it for that whole vacation. I paddled it. So I got the Slayer out. Now, right off the bat, I think a number of people saw I put it up on Instagram that, this was a three bells engineered day on the water because they handed me this kayak on a silver platter and said, do your worst. So I got out in the water, and as expected, like with any pedal drive, anything mechanical, cars, you name it, anything that's got lubrication for gears, et cetera, it's going to take a little while to work it in. So the first 45 minutes pedaling were a little rough, and then the lubrication spread out and it got worked in.
Yep. And
pedaling was much easier after that first 45 minutes or an hour or whatever. So this pond has an offshoot pond. I went into the offshoot pond. Within 5 minutes of getting in there, I hooked into my first bass of 2021, first fish of 2021, not through the ice. I don't remember if I caught any ice fish this year. Yeah, whatever.
I don't think so.
I don't think I did. I think it was all cooking and bullshitting and not ice fishing. So I hooked into a 14-incher. Very happy. Was found again northwest corner, man.
Yeah,
warmest part of the lake at this time of the year. So I was whipping around a bass jig with one of the trailers that one of the color patterns that I pressed Damien at Stretching Lines really hard to get me into. I'm not going to get into what it was, but I was very happy that the Stretching Lines lures that I figured were going to worked. So
that's
right
awesome.
there, two for two. The pedal drive is going to take a bit to work in, and these lures are going to work, but I got to verify it. And then maybe 10 minutes after that first fish, I got another one, which is actually nicer, hair short of 17 inches. So nice 2-pounder.
Yeah.
Smacked it and fought, and you can't ask for any more, in 45 degree, generally 45 degree water. So after those first two fish, I kind of was making my way around, and there was another guy in a bass boat out there, and I don't know what was going on with his boat, but after I caught those two fish, there was a lot of swearing, and he left. I don't know if he was having a bad day, and then I came in and broke the camel's back because I was catching fish immediately and he was not. I don't know. That happens. I've done that, gotten pissed off and just gotten away from someone when something's wrong. It's time to shift gears, you know?
Exactly. I'm going to get myself some new location.
Yeah. Turn the page, baby. But yeah, he had some swears. He was swearing at himself, swearing at his gear, and then he, I don't know, did a giant U-turn at about 30 miles an hour in his bass boat in this little tiny pond to show his upsetness and left. And I'm like, all right, whatever, dude.
Fortitude. I get you.
He was pissed.
Exactly.
Yep. So about halfway around my lap around this pond, hitting my normal spots in there that I like to frequent, the wind picked up.
Yeah. And
when the wind picked up, that absolutely sent the fish scurrying. There was no more bite. I got nothing after that. So I made a lap around and then went back into the main lake and was on my way back. Now I had the wind at my back, but I wanted to go to the other shore. So that meant it's a good sized body of water. That meant a pedal across it. Yep. So that waves were hitting my side. I don't know how I would have done in this. I don't think I would have done that in another kayak.
Yep.
This one,
like you don't think you would have attempted it?
I might have tipped. I don't think I would. Okay. I don't think I would have gone across it, dead across it. I mean, I literally went perpendicular to those waves, and they were 2 to 3 foot swells with white caps.
Yeah, that's intense.
And I went straight perpendicular across it, and I took water in, which is going to happen, right? I mean, you can't stop. I didn't feel my balance shift, which was it's amazing. I've never been in a kayak where you've gone, completely across waves, which you're not supposed to do.
Yeah,
and not had that equilibrium shift. Nothing. It was that's without a doubt. This Slayer is the most stable boat I've ever been on, and that's saying a lot because I have that 36-inch fish and dive. Yeah, and this was amazing.
Yeah.
So I got across. I made a few more casts. I got it back in, and that was my day. So I got 2 good fish, and honestly, I cannot say enough about the stability. I was blown away.
That's awesome. That's the kind of recommendation though that you want. Somebody who's gonna put themselves in harrowing situations with less than ideal conditions to really put something to the test like that, and that says a lot for sure.
Yeah. So I know you're going to be talking with Three Bells about what your next step is in your path. And honestly, man, if you look at me, I'm going to be going like this. I'm going to be going, get the Titan, because the Titan's even bigger.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, that's the whole thing. There's I think Lauren said it best. She goes, we know obviously that they have a direction where they're kind of leaning with what they'd like to place me in, but she's just said we're gonna put you in every single boat that we have here to make sure that it's the right fit. And that's the thing that's so great about Three Bells, is that they're gonna take the care to make sure that you're operating with the best equipment for your physique, for your ability, for your experience, all of these things kind of come into play, and that's really, really great, so yeah. I mean, so the Titan's on my short list of boats as well. It definitely is. Like there's very few factors that I'm a must on. I'm an open book. I'm willing to try anything. It's like my first year in college. You know what I mean?
2021. It's all good. You can try anything this year.
Yeah, it's fun. The
other thing, yes, they are. The other thing I could say about it was having used native ultimates for so many years, this was it was very bizarre. It was like getting a new vehicle where you normally put your change. Yeah, you normally put your change here, and you got your, this is where you put your coffee mug, and this is how your phone goes. It's just learning all these things. So the big things that I am tackling are the rod holders. I needed a fifth because it just didn't. 4, I found because of some of the other things that I was trying to do. There's 2 slots for leaving a rod down, and I don't think that's going to work for me. So I ended up procuring a fifth, which I'll get into in a minute. Fifth rod holder, and the catch board was a whole separate matter.
Yeah, because now it was more storing the catch board, right?
Yes, because in the native ultimate, it's wide open. I actually kept it in front and just slid it all the way into the front of the boat, but I could still reach it.
Yeah.
On this one, the foot slots are not long enough between the foot slots and the seat carriage, so to speak. It's not long enough to fit a 36-inch board. If I had a 32, it'd be fine, but I keep a 36.
That's right. I forget you have the bigger board.
Yeah, so I was like, oh shit, and I ended up storing it in the back for the day and just lashing it down. And I mean, obviously, I used it a couple times, but that was an issue. And then the third big thing that I'm figuring out a way to attack, and I really don't know yet, is my net, because there's a certain way I had my net in my ultimate, and now I end up kicking the handle of it every time I'm pedaling.
I'll say this. So, an angler's relationship in a kayak with their net is like, there's so many options, and everybody has what works for them, So that it's tricky. I've seen people dedicate rod holders to nets.
Yeah, and I don't want it standing up. I mean, just anything I can do to keep things standing up, because it's just another thing I can hook into accidentally with a treble.
You go take a cast and you're just like, oh, what's going on? Oh, there we go.
That's when I start swearing and leave an area. You know what I mean? That's enough. So, yeah, I've got 3 things to tackle. And then let me get into part 2. Yes. And I'll come back to this in part 3. So we're on the Empire Strikes Back here saga.
Okay.
Right here. As we all know, Empire Strikes Back.
The best one.
Is the best. Yeah. And I know I have no Star Wars. I have very, very, very little Star Wars stuff up in my nerd room here.
Yeah.
I do have a framed poster of Empire Strikes Back because it's the best. Followed very closely by Rogue One. I know a lot of people aren't going to want to hear that, but my God, Rogue One. We talked about it before.
Yeah.
Jeez, Rogue One. Anyways. So Wild Bill had contacted me. And I think we mentioned this last week, right? That Wild Bill had contacted me about, he was looking to get a fish finder and asked me for some recommendations. And I said, dude, tell you what, I bought a fish finder years ago. I haven't used it. It's sitting, rotting, doing nothing. Let me see if it works. And if it works, you can have it. And I did. I plugged it in. Life was good. So I gave him a list, a small shopping list of, you're going to need a transducer arm. And I recommended the same one I have on my Native Ultimate.
Yep.
You're going to need I said straight up, I said, look, I have 12-volt batteries here. I'm going to get rid of them.
Yeah.
If you're seriously looking at using this all the time, get an Aqua battery and you'll be much happier. So he bought the Aqua battery, which comes with a conversion kit, which is nice. So I can take the power cable to the fish finder and adapt it to the battery. All's good. Yeah, he took care of everything. I told him, here's what you got to get. I'll do all the work. No big deal. It won't take me that long. And I did. Again, if there's something I can throw in here later that we'll get back to.
If I'm not mistaken, you did some craftsmanship that was only comparable to the pottery scene in Ghost.
Yeah.
That was amazing. Yeah,
I was Demi. I got molested while I was doing it.
It's awesome. Great. Bill was back there, like you were just, it was amazing.
Yeah, but I got spooned. So, so here's where Luke gets his hand cut off. My kayak rack in my garage is an Amazon bought rack, right?
Yep.
It's made for kayaks. It has 2 cross beams and it has a nice kind of, what would you call it? Like a gradual, shall we say, U shape. It's a wider shape. It's not like a U where it's coming up, but it cradles the kayak.
Yeah,
which is fine.
There's no sharp edges. There's no sharp angles in there.
Yeah, but the cross beams aren't straight across. They angle up at the ends.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So that's what I was kind of getting at with the U shape. Well, that setup is fine if you have a transducer arm and you can swing your transducer up. And as we've spoken about before, I think I'm very concerned about damaging the rudder on the bottom of this native Slayer. It's like my priority is to make sure that this thing it's the weakest part. If it gets broken, it's going to be a pain in the ass.
Well, and it's something that you've never had to be concerned with before. So it's obviously a point where you want to make sure that this isn't an issue now when you kind of count on it. Yeah.
I had a drop down skeg rudder that was in the first Native Ultimate I have, and it eventually broke, but it was tapered enough that if it caught something on either end, it would push up.
Yep.
Okay, so this rudder is not. It's fixed and swings side to side. If I catch it on something, it's fucked. So I'm very, very concerned with it. If I drop it, it's fucked.
Yeah, you want
to. I'm super careful about it. So as Wild Bill was coming over to my house, I had to remove the Slayer from the kayak rack, put it on the bed of my truck, and leave it in my driveway while I was doing the work on the on Bill's kayak in the rack. Okay, I only have one rack that I can work out of. I have a couple wall racks, but I need access to both sides.
Yeah.
So I tilted. As always, I tilted the boat and slid it onto my truck. There's it's like a 2-inch rise from my truck to the rack, which is going to be fixed today, believe it or not.
Okay.
Not through the truck, through the rack. When I did that, unknowingly, the transducer, which is mounted in the bottom of the hull and sticks out beyond the hull like half an inch.
Yeah, it's pretty close, but there's enough. It's enough to grab.
It grabbed. It didn't slide over and push in. It grabbed. There is a little bit of wiggle room. If you catch it just right, it'll push in and no big deal. But it grabbed, and I pushed it without like crazy He-Man strength because I don't have that. What I say I have buggy whip arms. I got buggy whip arms. I am fat, so I mean I did put some weight into it, but I'm like I thought the rudder was catching, and I'm looking over, the rudder's not catching.
Okay.
I pushed it one more time, and I heard a pop. I said, well, that was funny. And when I got it up onto the truck, I realized the whole transducer. Not just the transducer, the mounting plate that was factory installed was hanging. And I'm like, what the hell? With a hole in the hull the size of a dime.
Oh.
There are 2 threads that the company puts in there.
Yep.
One of them pulled out, one of them didn't.
Oh.
So it's very bizarre. If both of them pulled out, you could blame me on it. That's obviously I put too much strength in it. But why did one come out, one not? That doesn't make any sense to me. So as Wild Bill is pulling into the driveway, and I've moved the rack over, I'm on the phone texting Derek at 3 Bells feverishly going,
oh, shit.
Yeah, we got a problem. This boat is now unusable. Like, what do we do? How do we go about this? And Derek said, what's your availability? This was Friday. Bill and I were working Friday afternoon. So I said, I have nothing going on this weekend that can't be moved. So my Saturday went to 3 Bells.
Yep.
Now, as far as Friday went, let me finish this part. Let me finish the Empire Strikes Back here.
Gotcha.
Bill came over. And again, when you're facing, even though I've done numerous mods on Ascend kayaks, I've had several of them. Every time you get a kayak and a new fish finder put together, there's all sorts of intricacies. You just never know how they're going to be mounted. It's completely different. Everyone's a snowflake. Every install is a snowflake. You never know how it's going to go. But this one was made a lot easier because there was a way I wanted to do the wiring. Mm-hmm. I've done it a certain way in the past. What I've done is I've taken those flush mounted rod holders where you drop a rod holder into them, not the flush mounted like actual rod holders, but the flush mounted rod holder mounts.
Yes.
I guess.
Yes. I have some of those.
Yeah. So I've taken those and just bored out the back end of them and used those as a wire conduit, which is fine. And then just I've put in duct seal. We used to call it monkey crap.
Yep.
That gray, mold, malleable, almost looks like clay.
Yeah.
And duct seal.
But you
So I put that in there.
Yeah. Reform around your cables and you're good to go.
Yes. Yeah, just to keep water out of the hull. So that's the way I used to do it. But when I got the Slayer from Three Bells, Ted had done such a wonderful job with Hobie makes an actual wiring conduit.
Yes,
through
I've
hull
seen
conduit, a grommet. So I talked to Derek and said I need a couple of those too. That's on me.
Yeah.
We'll take care of that. So Bill and I did what we could on Friday. I got the transducer arm installed. I drilled down the mount for the fish finder, and then I said, look, we're at a stopping point because there's certain things I need that I'll be picking up tomorrow with Three Bells. So for all of your kayak gear needs, if you need rivets, if you need through hull grommets, what else did I pick up there? If you need a catchboard holder for your kayak,
yeah.
Three Bells. I'm telling you,
it's basically your go-to. If you need parts for a mod, if you're that guy and you're going to do the modifications yourself and you need the right parts and you need them quick, that's what you got to do.
Exactly. So
Three Bells,
Bill and
Bar
I,
Taco, you're happy.
Yeah. Yep. So Bill and I got everything as much as we could get done Friday,
Yep.
and then I went to trivia. And by the way, a little nugget for those trivia players. 4 weeks in a row, I have finished in the top 3.
It's good.
I mean, that's a pretty good streak right there. I'm pretty happy.
He's a master of music that is based on self-care.
Yeah. Well, you know what it was? I got those first 3 right, and then I fell off the map.
Yeah, but you made I think if you would have buzzed in for any of those other answers, I feel like most people were going to believe you, whatever it was you had to say.
Yeah. So the topic, you don't want to say it, but I'm uncouth and classless.
Oh no,
the topic was.
I just thought the self-care joke was funny.
Songs about masturbation was Bobby's topic for trivia last week, and for whatever reason, 3 in a row I knew because they were classic rock. Did you notice I threw up on Facebook before I think I threw it up
Billy
on Thursday.
Squier.
I saw
You did?
Yeah, and that ended up being one of the songs.
Yep.
I mean, that's just easy. The Stroke's going to be in there. Come on.
Yeah.
So, all right. So Friday's done. I now have to wake up early after our night of trivia and pizza and winning on Saturday to get down to Three Bells. So I told Derek I would buy coffee. I did. I got down there. So here's where this was funny, and I told it to him too. So Saturday morning, while Bill's kayak is in my kayak rack, in mid surgery, and my wife was good enough to get up. Actually, I think she went to the gym in the morning, so she was up anyways. But she was nice enough to help me with the kayak that was resting on some mats on the ground.
Gotcha.
She was nice enough to help me with the Slayer up. So again, I didn't bust the rudder or do any more damage to the transducer.
Yep.
So she helps me out. I'm worried about, dealing with her and we're all good. And she leaves and I leave and I just about cross over the Connecticut line. I realize, oh shit.
Would you forget?
I didn't secure the transducer and it's flapping around back there by the wire, which is just bad. So I pulled over, stopped at a gas station, and thankfully they had the Gorilla Glue brand duct tape.
Yep. Oh, that stuff ain't going anywhere.
Nope.
Yep.
So that Band-Aid was put on, and then that survived the rest of the hour and whatever 15-minute drive. I mean, Connecticut's only 5 minutes from my house. So
did you hear it? Like when
I just forgot about it, and I was like,
oh, okay. I'm curious. If it was like dunk 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 dunk. Oh, well, that's what that is.
Yeah, it was one of those things where we loaded it up, and it was in my mind, and I got to do this, I got to do that. I tied the boat down, and got into a conversation with my wife. All right, see you later, love you, bye. And then halfway, right as I crossed the Connecticut border, I'm like, oh shit. So that was the way down there. Got Derek his coffee. We loaded the boat into their rack, and I'm hands-on with stuff. So I told him, I'm like, he came in early to help me out with this crap. I said, look, what do you need me to do? You want me to tool jockey? Do you want me to grind plastic down? And this is all stuff I've done. And he's like, nope, it's Saturday morning. Get your hands in there. Let's see what we can do. Take pictures, have a light, do this, do that. We did everything. We got it done. And holding.
You got in there with the hot mops, and you were
in there with the hot mops.
Yep.
Derek, I thought I knew what I was doing. Derek fired me down on the front lawn. It was all good.
Perfect.
So we got it. We got her seaworthy again.
Nice.
And I ended up staying there for another hour, chit chatting with him and Ted, who came in a little later. Ted came in on time. Derek showed up early, and Lauren was out doing deliveries, I believe, on Long Island. So there you go. There's another plug. Look at Three Bells out there doing deliveries.
That's what I'm saying. They're doing deliveries, man.
Yep. And I did let him know what was going on with Bill's kayak. And I'm like, look, I'm sorry. I said, Bill lives 20 minutes from my house. I would have directed him down there, but this was an easy one.
Yeah.
And,
Well, and he even said, he was like, for something like that absolutely, that makes sense.
yeah,
If
this
you
was
have
not major.
Yeah, exactly.
So I ended up drilling, for six holes for rivets and another 2 for the conduits that I picked up while I was down there. So when I got home Saturday with my nice new patched up boat, I started getting back to work on Bill's, and I finished it up later in the evening. I was sending him videos and you videos, but I did like a pro job. It looks awesome.
It does look really good. That final video, the walkthrough, and I think even some of the other Hookset Hoodlums Pro staff had asked you about doing working on theirs, and you're just like, I mean, it's would you say you were going to help them out with a phone tutorial or something like that?
Yeah. It was Rachel RJW. What's the rest of Rachel's tag?
I think it's RJW _ My Marine World.
Thank you. I always forget that part because everybody has fishing in their tags, and I always forget everything. But Rachel had reached out to me, and I said, because she lives in New Jersey, the gas alone for either way, or even if we went halfway,
yeah,
I mean it doesn't make any sense.
I think she's got a native as well.
She does. She has a Slayer.
So. Oh, she has a Slayer too.
I believe so. Yeah.
Slayers all over the place.
They're good, man. I'll tell you what. After what I went through with those waves,
Bill Galekis has a Slayer.
I may recommend you to that because that was awesome. The Titan's a little wider. I mean, that's about it.
I don't know if Native was aware of the potential marketing involved, but like Slayer,
and you know what?
Like, come on.
I didn't tag them in that nice little post I did. I did not tag Native Watercraft, and I should have because I've been using their products for 15 years now. I really should have made them aware, like, hey, I'm into metal, and you made a boat named after the most extreme thrash band of all time. Like
the most definitive. I want to jump in there. Jay Manning jumps in and he says, "Fire down onto the lawn, jerky." It means so much, Jay, that somebody got that.
I know. We throw that
kind of crap out there all the time.
Yeah, I even got a message a couple minutes ago on my phone from a friend that was saying, hey, you got like a 19-second video up on Facebook, and I'm throwing Jerky Boy's comments in there, and you weren't laughing, which I'm very upset about. It's all right. I'll stare at you.
Me?
Yeah. Yeah, you were doing something. I go back and look at that thing.
Okay, all right.
I threw a Jerky Boy comment in there, and I'm laughing by myself like an idiot because it makes me laugh, I guess. So the topper. Obviously, I've damaged a kayak. Let's go. Let's review the trilogy here.
Let's do this. Okay.
I've caught some fish. I've survived some waves.
Caught fish, and yes, you survived like treacherous waters.
Then I met my father, and he cut my hand off.
It's like It's like a textbook formula screenplay. This is where the incident comes in right here.
Yes, the incident. But we come out of it. Wild Bill has a nicely modified kayak. We go down to Three Bells, which I always like visiting. Got to work on the kayak with the guys. That was awesome. I don't think that option's available to everyone. Just so anybody who goes down there and thinks they're going to bring their toolkit, I wouldn't bother.
Yeah.
If you're using them for mods, let them do the work. And on the way back, I used Bar Taco's pickup service. So I got this is just piggish, and I ate it all. Listen, I got 2 duck quesadillas. I got 2 pork belly tacos. Oh. I got 2 fried oyster tacos.
Oh, yes.
And I guess for dessert, I got 4 Baja fish tacos.
Testify.
I also got heart disease.
Yeah. I also got a new cardiologist. I also got I had caught up with you about this point where you were, I think, en route to Bar Taco for the pickup. I didn't realize that you were doing a pickup. I thought you were just running in. But how was your app experience?
It was all right. They had allergen lists and stuff, which is obviously it's not even a big issue. It's a mandatory for me. So that was much better. But here's the thing, and I'm not faulting them on this because I got the food and it was just very confusing to me. Before, when I initially went on there, I didn't see the allergen stuff. For whatever reason, it doesn't pop up until you order. There's an allergen checklist. Like, hey, I'm allergic to this or I'm allergic to this. And I'm like, okay, cool. But I saw that afterwards because I didn't get that far in the order. I didn't see the allergy thing. My initial take was, well, cross-contamination can happen. I don't want to get sick. I've got to call them. So I called them. And I spoke with whoever I spoke with. I said, it wasn't a manager. I said, look, I have to talk to you guys. I have allergens and I got to worry about this shit. And she's like, you got to order online. I go, well, I'm worried about this. I want to make sure that I don't get sick.
Yeah.
And I don't know if she thought like, maybe, I don't know if my tone was off or something. She hung up on me. I was like, what the hell? So I ordered it online. I saw the allergen stuff and I said, oh, okay, this makes a little more sense now. I don't know. Maybe I was sounded froggy. I hadn't eaten. I could have been hangry. I have no idea.
It's true. You know what I think
could have been my fault.
Amazing when you order takeout from a restaurant? Like when you go in and you sit down and you order, they can see how many people are there. But when you order at a place, and Bar Taco is one of these that I think it's a little bit easier to make the mistake because you order every item a la carte. You know what I mean? You don't order like a single entree and it comes with, what it is. It's like, no. You order the individual numbers of tacos or quesadillas or items that you want and they just bring them out. And it's just kind of how it works. So when somebody like myself, a real professional when it comes to this, or as Sean did in this situation, Sean did very well for himself going in there with that order. 4 of the Baja fish. That's impressive right there. That is impressive.
I initially bought 2 for my youngest son because he's really expanding his palate.
Yep.
And then he said, Dad, I'm going to save them for dinner. I go, they're going to be gone by dinner. And they were.
Yeah.
Adios.
So I had, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, Sean, but where you go and you make an order, you're like, yeah, I'm going to grab lunch. I'm going to get this and this and this. So we'll put this together. It's great. And then you go and they give you like the packaged utensils, but they give you enough for like 4 or 5 people.
That's fine.
This has to be for 4 or 5 people. And you're like, right here. It's for one.
I got one.
I'm a glutton.
Yeah, I got 1 packet of utensils, but I'm fine. They can give me as many as they want because I have a big, I have a gallon plastic bag in my cupboard that is used for plastic utensils that I get from places, and I bring it camping.
Yeah,
I don't think I bought plastic utensils in 15 years.
That's the best thing to do with them when you have too many. But it's sort of the insinuation that more than one person will be eating this food. I
didn't get that. They looked at me and that was one. They're like, "Yeah, you got this."
That's why I think they have to be a little bit more careful about how they plan that. They're like, yeah, one person could probably do this, or a small village. I mean.
Small village.
But they're trying to be environmentally responsible by not putting too much plastic out there. So they're like, we'll give you 1 set of utensils. You guys figure it out. And it's tacos. You probably don't even need the utensils anyway.
Yep. So that was the fixing of the kayak.
Hold
Bar
on.
Taco were obviously me and the Ewoks destroying the Empire.
I need you to put the last little happy tree on this Bob Ross work of art you're putting together. I assume that when you got into the truck and started heading back, you were firing down 91 North with your duck quesadillas half in your gullet, like on the road, right? No.
Restraint. I was already hungry. I am getting home and smashing these things. I'm not touching them in the car.
Okay. That's impressive. Nice. Because we've had the conversation about car pizza,
Yes.
Okay.
We not only did we have the conversation about it, we had the actual action of using car pizza as apparel. And we just smashed it all over each other. We're animals. One thing I did note, as I was at Three Bells, Derek had to go into the back to get a part.
Yep.
And I just walked back there with him. We were bullshitting. And as we were walking back, you remember the incident where we walked into the shipping room and my eyes snapped to, and I was completely distracted by what would become our future intern, Howie?
Exactly. Yes.
Well, my eyes snapped again.
Oh.
Apparently, one of the, I don't know if it was an employee or relative employee. I don't actually know what this person's role is, but apparently they had a few shirts left over for the marina that were Three Bells Marina. And on the back, it says life is better on the water. Well, that person who's affiliated with them tie-dyed them. And you know me, as I'm wearing I love
so
tie-dye.
Awesome. Yeah.
I still, to this day, love wearing tie-dye, especially in the summer, but I wear it all the time. So I stopped and said, do you have my size? And Derek's like, yeah, those aren't even on the computer system yet. I go, hold this one for me because I found a good one. So
very nice.
They've got somebody there doing some tie-dye and having
awesome.
some fun. There weren't many left. There was like under 10 or 15, but they were there. So maybe we could either, I don't know. What do you think? We should ask. Lauren's listening right now, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I believe so.
Lauren, maybe you could throw one of those into the next giveaway.
I'll tell you, I
Just
do
saying.
love the resurgence in the popularity of tie-dye.
Yeah.
Like even my kids, they're like when they were little, like my wife and some of her friends, they would get together and do these like tie-dye parties and stuff and make like little t-shirts for the kids and stuff. But like even now, like my kids are older and they're like, no, they're into tie-dye. In fact, I think it was Largemouth Sass had done a bleach dye on what shirt was it? Might have been like an Above the Water
Oh yeah.
T-shirt or something like that. No, one of those, and it was just like, I mean, it's just it's crazy. So I do love that it's a little bit more popular. It's kind of cool, but that's awesome, man.
Speaking of Sass, you and I both noticed separately because I didn't realize you had posted it.
Yep.
She was posting something up, holding a bass, wearing a Dinosaur Jr. shirt. And Dinosaur Jr. is Jay Maskus from Amherst, Massachusetts. He's
Western
our boy.
Mass love,
Western
absolutely.
Mass.
In fact, it's so ironic because, God, I haven't seen Dinosaur Jr.
Neither have I.
It
I want to
must
say
have
they
been-
played. Didn't they play with Primus at the amphitheater in Holyoke about 10 years ago? I think they did. The first year that the Mountain Park Amphitheater was open, or whatever they call it. Yeah, it is Mountain Park.
You know
Amphitheater.
what? Yeah, you very well may be right. But I know that last time I saw them was shortly thereafter I worked at Bernie's. Like
wow.
somewhere like that. So it was a while ago.
The height of their popularity.
It was awesome, man. And I mean, you know, Dinosaur Jr. is a great group, and she took this picture, and immediately my eyes were like, she's wearing it. She's got amazing taste in music anyway. But I'm like, that's a Dinosaur Jr. T-shirt. That is awesome. So I shared the picture, and it's funny because ironically, just before seeing that same day, I think I had gone out. I was out somewhere and I saw something hanging up on a bulletin board somewhere, or maybe it was in a newspaper. But now we're starting to see things for concerts later in the year.
I know.
Events are starting to come together, and Dinosaur Jr. is playing a show, I think, in either Northampton or Greenfield in like
let's go.
November. Yeah, that's what I said to her. I was like, I even thought, I was like, maybe I should get some tickets. That would be great. Let's should go. I think it'd be great.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I haven't seen. You know me. I'm always up for a concert,
Yeah.
and especially local stuff. And
Yep.
I have not seen Dinosaur Jr. myself, and I know a couple of my buddies are really into him. So we could have a little group going out there.
I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I
Cool.
love it. Sweet.
Yeah. So that was the weekend, man. That was we had tragedy. We had many victories, one horrible tragedy, and we had duck quesadillas.
Roadkill Nick's jumping in, says, I'm in fact in class right now.
I hope he's listening to it on a Bluetooth speaker so everyone can listen to it.
Yeah, there we go. All
right, Nick, just for your classmates. Fuck, fuckity, fuck, fuckity, fuck.
I love it. Oh,
Yep, he's turning bright red right now.
very nice.
So yeah, that was both of our fishing experiences.
Exciting,
We're almost there, and honestly, if we're supposed to get up into the 30s today, but my lake is open, so I'm gonna probably be on the dock taking a couple casts with jigs and see what happens. Just to start.
Yeah, I'm thinking I might take a run out at some point. My oldest has a dance class today, and there's a spot. There's a spot nearby actually that you're familiar with, Sean, that I may go and throw a cast, a few casts in before it gets dark, because it's now it's not getting dark until like 7:15. Something like that.
I know.
Yesterday was so nice, man.
Can I go on another tirade, by the way?
Feel free.
All right. I don't care about daylight savings or not. I would prefer daylight savings year round because I like having light at night. You know what I mean? Just not getting dark at 4 o'clock.
Yes.
Why are we changing the clocks? Does anybody know? Does anyone care? Like, I am not overly political at all, but that's the only thing I've ever filled out okay. Hey, teacher, fuckity, fuck. All right. See, I get distracted by this shit. I was doing so well.
No, it's okay.
That's the only thing I've ever signed a petition for in my life.
Yep.
Was to stop the goddamn clock changes.
Yeah. I believe that daylight savings had something to do with agriculture early on, which, I get.
It was World War I saving electricity. And then the agricultural thing has come into it over time as is it working, is it not? And supposedly it does still save a little energy on grids, but if people are out doing stuff, I don't know. I'm not an expert on it. I just hate the clock changes because
it just drives me bananas.
Yeah, it's stupid. It's completely stupid. It's unnecessary. It causes physical harm to people through either being asleep at the wheel or causing, the biggest thing has been problems with hearts. Like your heart can, when you're fucking around with your sleep patterns, it screws with your heart.
Yep.
There's my tirade. I'm done. I hate changing the clocks. And I did see, like, if you start poking around, all the states in New England have started kind of pushing that forward, particularly Massachusetts and Maine have been big on it. I think Mass and Maine. But unfortunately, because of being the proximity we are to New York City and the business, being the business hub of the world or one of the business hubs of the world, if New York City doesn't change, we're probably not. But if you look at a map, like we really deserve to be in Atlantic time, not Eastern Standard.
They've been actually saying about that in Maine, some of those islands that are on the fringe that should be on Atlantic time, and not in Eastern, because it's
such a swing, for the whole year. It's such a swing. I hate it. That's all I'm going to say about that. I'm going to turn positive now. Here, you ready?
Yeah, let's go something positive.
Positive stuff. With the onset of spring and April being 2 weeks away. April is generally in New England the start of tournament season.
Yep.
So this morning, before we got on air, I actually registered for I registered for 3 tournaments in the past 24 hours. One of them I was able to register for yesterday. But we'll start with the MAKB monthly tournament. So we talked a little bit about that. That is, again, another tournament that provides 10%, the top 10% in a bid to the national championship. Things are going to be done a little bit differently this year. It is not a month-long tournament. It's the April, quote-unquote, month tournament, but you select a week for this. So 1st through the 7th, 8th through the 14th, 15th through the 21st, or 22nd through the 28th. And then if there's any days after that, they're null and void. You don't fish those.
Yep.
So I went in, made my selection. I'm in on that, and I'll be doing those through October.
That's awesome.
Cool. Next up, the Spring Brawl, the Catch 'em All Spring Brawl.
Mm-hmm.
That is open, ready to go. That is actually occurring on April 3rd. I registered for that today after all of my last Monday's tragedy in the description of that. I'm very excited. I picked a lake already. I know where I'm headed. It's kind of funky. I had a choice on where I wanted to fish this, and I still do. I mean, I can go wherever I want, but I know where I'm going. You have to stay at one body of water. So there is a lake that I fish that has smallmouth and largemouth, and I think it has potential. Or there's another lake that I know is a sure thing that I'm going to catch a lot of small fish.
Gotcha.
I'm actually going to go for the potential lake.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm going to try that and see what happens, because if the largemouth bite dies, maybe I'll go over to smallmouth.
There you go.
What the hell, right?
Yeah, it's not a bad thing.
Yep, so we're going to do that. Now, both of those events require MAKB membership.
Yep.
This upcoming event that I'm going to talk about does not. So if you're in Massachusetts, or hell, if you're in New England and you want in on this and you're okay with traveling, if you're outside of Massachusetts, I mean, even inside Mass, you're going to travel. But MAKB does the knockout tournament, which I've been a part of for 4 years. You don't need to be a member for this. Just pay the fee and you're in. So what that is like NCAA March Madness. Right now, I believe we're set up for a 48-person tournament. So that would mean 3 brackets of 16, with the final being a three-way dance, triple threat, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
3-way dance, right? If we can get 64 people, that's easy enough. Then it's a championship with 2 people.
Yep.
Okay, so it'll be 4 brackets of 16. So I'm in on that. I think, like I said, there's 48 people. That is a hell of an event where the first round is, or the whole first, the bracket is set up. The first round is set up. It's drawn randomly. Ken does that. Or let me think. I think Don Davis did it last year. But either way, the MAKB directors.
It gets drawn.
Gets drawn randomly online. It's usually a live stream to do it. So you find out who your first round opponent is. And the bracket is set from there. So you reach out at that point to your first round opponent and say, we've got whatever it is, 3 weeks or a month to fish this, to get this round in. Otherwise, we're both DQ'd.
Yep.
Right? Get that in. You have to call them up and say, hey, what day are you available? I have this day off, or we can fish. If we have an MAKB tournament that we're both in, why don't we count that as our day? And you're doing that. But I always like using another fishing day. I don't like using during the tournament because there's
more
enough
of a
going on.
Plan.
Yeah. And honestly, it's another excuse to fish on a Wednesday or something.
That's true too. Yeah.
Yeah, so I always try to do it during the week and have some fun and knock that out. And plus, waters are obviously a little less populated during the week.
True.
And you've got 8 hours to fish, I believe. You got a certain amount of time to fish. You go out there, you fish one-on-one. I believe I'd have to look at the rules. Ken would yell at me right now. Look at the rules. He's probably texting you right now. Look at the rules. Read the rules. But he does it. Well, it's my own fault. But you get your certain amount. You've got your limit of fish, whether it's 3 or 5. You're up against that person, and then you're on to the next round, and then it's a completely blank slate. Or if you lose, that's it. You're
done
at home.
Yep.
And this is an interesting year. There's some big names in this one. This is a meat grinder. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to, people always, we know as fishermen, like when you fish and you're out there all the time, whether you're in competition or not, people around you always say, well, you should do this, or you should do that. And they don't know what, the landscape is for quote unquote professional fishing, which is a conversation for another time.
Exactly.
But if you want to measure yourself and you're in Massachusetts or New England or close by, or you're up for a little bit of travel, get in on this.
It's a good way to do it.
Yeah. This is one-on-one. This is like, all right, me and you, same lake. Let's see what you've got. I'll see what I got. And it's fun. It is a lot of fun. So yeah, it's that's the third one. And then today, the final tournament note I want to make is I am going to be setting up the April chronic trips.
Yep.
So on the opposite side, for beginners who are not currently fishing tournaments, currently fishing a lot, this is a good place to start.
Definitely.
You'll get used to having fish judged, having that ruler with you, making sure you've got your little process of get the fish, get it in safely, get it on the board. Again, the restrictions are a lot looser than most other tournaments. If you want to fish from shore, I don't care. You want to fish saltwater, it's in. You want to fish freshwater, great. You want to get a charter on saltwater, I don't give a rat's ass. Do it. Get out, catch fish, turn them in. Let's see what we can do. Half of the money that comes in goes to usually planting trees, whether I know it was the Amazon for a couple of them, and then it was to recover forest in the California, in areas devastated by the California wildfire.
Yep.
Yeah. So there's 4 coming up, and then you and I have to have that discussion, my friend, about what species. I'm going to give you a list. And
we should do that this week.
All right. American freshwater species. And I will be setting up the first ever inaugural, I don't know, what do you want to call it? Virgin.
Well, so
Jigs and Bigs tournament.
What I want to do is this, and I might as well throw this out here on the show. Anybody who has listened to the episode we did last week with Brett and Brian from Make Massachusetts Fishing Spots Great Again. Here's what I want to do with this tournament. I want to get this to be as large as humanly possible. As many of our listeners as we can get out there. There's hundreds of you guys that are out there listening to the show, and it means the world to us. But what we want to do is kind of show some support to Make Massachusetts Fishing Spots Great Again. They need trash bags. And, no, we're not going to go and buy them a bunch of trash bags and leave it as is, but we do want to make a donation as listeners of Jigs and Bigs. So a portion of all of the monies raised from this tournament in May for Jigs and Bigs are going to go to Make Massachusetts Fishing Spots Great Again. The rest of it is going to go to prizes for people who place. So the larger this is, the bigger and better the prize packs are going to be. So let's go ahead and make it happen. And we're just going to go and we're going to partner with as many people as we can to get some great prizes together and just make it absolutely awesome. So we're set on, we're going to use Fish Donkey as well, right, Sean?
Yeah, I'm going to set it up on Fish Donkey.
Yep. So that's if you're going to do the May show, if you're going to do the April tournament for Chronic Trips, you'll already have Fish Donkey. You'll be in business, and you can jump right on that way. So details will be coming up about that. But yeah, so we're going to do our part to try and support Make Massachusetts Fishing Spots Great Again. Take care of our local waters where we're based out of. And if you haven't listened to that episode yet, go and give it a listen because they started this really at the absolute grassroots level, and it has taken off, and they're really making a huge impact on local environments around here. So awesome stuff from them.
Yeah, I do want to tighten this up a little bit from the Chronic Trips because again, Chronic Trips is a whole different entity and it's very loose. I want to tighten this up. I'm actually going to require either a hog trough or a catch board.
Yeah. Oh, which I think it makes it easier. Yeah.
It makes it easier on the angler, number one.
Yep.
But like, I'm kind of done with
the measuring tapes.
I'm kind of done with measuring tapes and those laser etched rulers that have I mean, it's great they have a vertical edge, but it just sometimes they're hard to read. So let's keep it at hog trough, or I'll allow the hog troughs, although they're a dying, they're a dying measurement device as far as I'm concerned, because
there will be differences between chronic trips and us, obviously. Like we're going to be freshwater only, and we'll have a list of those species that we'll put out there that are going to, you're going to rack up points. But one thing that will be very similar is the way that we're judging the fish as far as earning points. So this being multi-species, it's going to pay for you to get out there, and even if you catch something as a bycatch, measure it and then enter it in whatever category it can fit in.
Yeah, and what I'm going to do is, because this is yet another thing that I'm going to be devoting time to for judging, which does take a while, and especially if we have a lot of people in. So like I'm sure folks of you that are listening out in California or Texas or wherever, you're going to be throwing me fish species that we don't have up here, which is fine. But I'm not going to put every species of trout listed in America, because that's there's like 15 or something like that. Like, I mean, I'm not going to do that. So like browns get pretty big. I mean, I'm going to try and group them to be like relative size. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you.
I have to. Like a sunfish, I'm going to be making a sunfish category. I'm not going to be putting, red-eared sunfish, bluegills, pumpkin seeds, warmouth. I'm not putting all of those. Like, there's no way. So we're going to streamline it as much as possible. And remember, if you don't see your fish in a category, that's what the NE5 is there
That's
for.
exactly what the NE5 is for. If it's not listed in there, you can enter it in the NE5, and that's just a stringer of NE5, and it will automatically cull for you as you put longer fish in. It'll kick out the shorter ones.
Yep. So that's all I have for tourney stuff. So we have two last items. When I say we have one last item to talk about, because I just listened to it last night. We'll get that. We'll leave that as the main event.
Yeah, we should do that.
You have a small tirade to go on, sir.
Very slight. So one thing I want to mention is that we're at, International Women's Day just occurred. Was it last week? I think it was last week. And what I find so ironic here is that with somebody that's really close to the show, and I had a conversation which I kind of knew was just going to be a matter of time before this was going to come up. And as a father of daughters, this really just pissed me off. This person had basically said they were experiencing a situation that kind of wanted to make them kind of walk away from fishing entirely, which really, my immediate response was, if you do that, then they win. That's exactly it. So this came through basically a lot of criticisms. And when I say a lot of criticisms, I mean really wide criticisms from, locations of where this person fishes, their skill level of what they're doing when they're out there fishing, all the way to their gender or, anything like that. And I think that that's like, it's really unfortunate. It's really sad that we haven't evolved enough right now to look a little bit beyond that. I get, people say stupid things when they're jealous, but some of the things that were said in this conversation kind of cross the line. So I kind of just want to surmise it and say, Lady Angler Nation, Jigs and Bigs has you. We got you. It's, it's sad and unfortunate that we're not evolved enough to get to that level when we should be adults. And in this situation, these are adults that some of which are older than myself. I feel like it's really unfortunate that people have to act this way about, public fishing areas, and they have to get into, name calling and just the regular bullshit that kind of goes with it. So, I'm one of those where It's one of these things where I feel like as a man, I try not to make too much of a comment on, but this just bugged the hell out of me. It really did. I was like, if you give up fishing, you're basically letting them get what they want because they're threatened and they're jealous of what it is you have. And that's why nothing is really sticking. So, Lady Angler Nation, we got you. It's, it is what it is, but hopefully eventually things will weed itself out.
You hope.
Yeah, that's all we can do, unfortunately, There's ignorance everywhere, so some areas much more than others. So,
Yeah, that's. We should probably leave that at that.
Yeah, exactly.
The whole situation sucks, and honestly, it comes down to people being assholes when they don't need to be. And unfortunately, sometimes people don't think.
Yep.
And they use social media to broadcast it, and it sucks.
Yep.
So I know who I know who that person was, and I didn't mention anything to her about it because you've kind of been the point man on this situation, but I was pretty much as disgusted with the situation as you were, and it's just ridiculous. So
absolutely. Yeah. I'm like,
I mean, it's online bullying. I mean, it's just bullshit.
Oh, it 100% is. And I mean, to the point where like it really did cross way too many lines, where it makes me wonder where the families of these people that are threatening this person and whatever, like, are they aware of exactly what kind of an a-hole they're living with under the same roof? You know, I mean, come on,
Probably not,
probably not. But
it
is what it is.
What are we going to do?
So that's exactly it. So basically what I'm saying is like, if you've got, women in your life that like to get outdoors and do stuff, encourage them as much as you can, because there's a lot of people, a lot of men out there that will not or try to discourage what they're doing. So we got you, Lady Angler Nation.
Yep.
Sweet.
Got your back, Jigs and Bigs. Got your 6.
Got your 6.
Oh, it's a military thing.
Yeah, it's true.
6. 6 o'clock. So, boy, do we have a lot to unpack here.
We really do.
My God.
There's a lot.
All right. So, the Hookset Hoodlums Fishing for Answers episode that just dropped on Sunday, starring Cody Van Zandt.
Yes.
A.K.A. Lockwood Fishing. Our man from Maryland, who will probably, you guys out there will be hearing a lot more of on Jigs and Bigs, because you think Sean the Fisherman had stories? To paraphrase my cousin, Lockwood Fishing stories make Sean the Fisherman stories look like Pixar movies.
Yeah, they really do. I mean, I'll just go out and say this. Sean the Fisherman is allowed in all 50 states.
Yes. Oh, my God. Yes, he is. He is. Some of the residents don't want him there, but legally I'm allowed.
Legally,
to set foot
you're
in
okay. Yeah. There's no trespass orders or anything. Yes.
Yeah, not so much for Lockwood Fishing. And I mean, we knew. I'm going to go ahead and put my favorite quote for the interview, because I was absolutely dying when I heard this, because it was out of nowhere. And I sent it to you right off the bat, and you were laughing too. I'm trying not to laugh here. Cody did the interview at a friend of his house's, which she has a nickname, which if you watch the episode, it's great.
Yeah.
But he said he was doing the interview out on the porch to, quote unquote, rip Newports and be loud, which is just as funny today as it was yesterday when he said it. So that started the interview. Oh, no, that didn't even start. That was when he got on the interview legibly. This interview actually started a few minutes beforehand, and there just shenanigans were had. So if you guys aren't watching the Hookset Hoodlums on YouTube with their Fishing for Answers show, get on it, because I don't know. There's also an it's not for everyone. There is some explicit language. There's a little bit more with Cody's episode.
Definitely.
But there is an F, Marry, Kill section where,
oh goodness,
your host with the most, Bobby Roast Beef, seems to be in every episode with. It's bizarre and it's great.
It's become
check it out.
When is Bobby gonna die? At this point, that's really what it is. And I can't believe I've made it the number of weeks so far. But when he was like. He came out of the gate. Well, I don't want to give too much away. You guys got to watch it. But when he gave his first answer, it was like, oh, okay. This is going to be interesting. And then he gave the next one, and everybody just did the math real quick. And I think it was Andrew lost his hat and then slid right out of his chair from laughter. It was insane. I think you wrote the best thing though, Sean, as far as like this episode goes. This episode of Fishing for Answers contains beavers, bib shits, extra dimensional beings, night herons, and backwards cameras. Oh, and don't forget the goose.
Yeah.
Don't forget the goose as a missile. Really.
I sent you that after listening to the entire thing.
Oh God.
Obviously I had taken Grampy's sleepy medicine, so I was laughing a little more, but
I
Oh
did
my
my
God.
second viewing that way, and it was awesome because I went back and I watched it a second time, and I'm like, whoa, okay, here we go.
Yeah, so I guess
Poor Betty White.
We could also advise all the listeners or watchers, if you're, if you have prescriptions of any way, shape, or form, go ahead and pop those or take them before viewing, because it might enhance your experience even more. But it's not needed.
No.
But it does
not.
take it up a notch.
I should mention that we did recently record an interview segment for Jigs and Bigs that's coming up in the next few weeks with Cody Van Zandt. So we have a great conversation with him. And then after we recorded that, we did have a conversation about how to incorporate him and some of his really, really crazy, fun, outlandish sort of stories in here. So you guys will be hearing that. We just kind of want to brand it the right way and make it, make it as entertaining as possible. Because that's the thing. We are the fishing podcast that gives you, good information, tips and tricks and things like that. But we want to entertain you. That's ultimately what our goal is. So.
And if Cody is not the definition of entertaining, I don't know what the fuck is.
I know.
This guy's great. Like, he's been telling us stories in there's a thread we're all in on together through Hooks and Hoodlums, and there's been 3 stories that have just been mind-boggling. The one that he did last night about his dog and his fox and his fox.
Yeah, that should say everything you need to know.
I don't even know what to say. Like,
I have to say
I don't.
Damien from Stretching Lines jumping in periodically in those in that chat, and his reaction every time is like, what the fuck did I just read? And that's what you've got coming on Jigs and Bigs, is basically an extension. That's part of the reason why we haven't taken any kind of deep dives on any of this stuff on the show, is because it's just got to be in his own words, and we'll set it up. And
we're holding this, and this is just going to be the summer of love. This is...
Yeah, it's like a hot ember, and we just can't wait to release it and just take it out of our hands, because it's burning with goodness.
Yeah, so we got more coming for you. I have nothing else, dude. We had to end with Cody because you can't top him.
You can't come back after that. You can't. So let's go ahead and get to it, guys. We've got our interview segment with Cody Jennings from JIGMASTERS. This was an awesome conversation. We had a great time talking with Cody. He's got a killer product. In fact, I think it was the last winner for our giveaway. Won a box through Dark Horse Tackle that was all exclusive JIGMASTER stuff, including of course the staple, the jigs and bigs. The staple is their flippin' jig. We've just got all kinds of great stuff, guys. We're going to get to that interview segment in just a bit, but first we have a quick word from our good friends at Three Bells Outfitters.
Our great friends.
Our great friends.
Great friends.
They're there for us. We'll see you guys in a bit. Jigs and Bigs is proud to announce that we're being supported by Three Bells Outfitters. Located in Smith Cove on the Niantic River, TBO is Connecticut's premier paddle sports retailer. They're a full service shop specializing in kayaks and paddleboards for everything from recreation to tournament fishing. Three Bells is an authorized dealer of Hobie, Jackson, Feel Free, Native, and Bonafide kayaks, as well as many paddleboard brands. Not sure of what kind of SUP or kayak you want? TBO offers free demos of all brands. Want to go for an extended test drive? They have a full-service rental facility on site. Three Bells also offers a complete rigging service for your kayak with such brands as Yak Attack, Yak Gear, Burley Pro, Yak Power, Torpedo, and more. The sky is the limit. You can visit Three Bells Outfitters in person or online at threebellsoutfitters.com. They ship anywhere in the lower 48 states, or order online and pick up at the store. Can't make it to the store to pick up your kayak, or worried the freight company might damage your purchase? Three Bells Outfitters offers a white glove delivery of kayaks within a 225-mile radius of their store at a rate less than typical freight carriers. They will deliver your kayak, set it up, and answer any questions you may have. Be sure to follow them on Facebook and Instagram. Don't forget to tell them Jigs and Bigs sent you. Three Bells Outfitters, because life is better on the water. All Alrighty, guys, Bobby Roast Beef here. It is interview time in our interview segment. We in the beef seat. Today we've got a special guest for us. Cody Jennings, he's from JIGMASTERS. You've probably heard him on some other amazing podcasts as well. Cody definitely knows a thing or two about making some pretty good baits. In fact, at the time of recording this right now, we are running a giveaway right now on our Instagram for our Instagram followers, and we're almost at 9,000. We're almost there. And we're partnering with Dark Horse Tackle like we always do. And this month they have I think this is a first ever for Dark Horse, but they have an exclusive takeover style box where everything in the box is from JIGMASTERS. And I got to tell you, it kills me a little bit to give everything in here away because this is a gold mine of fantastic baits. Cody, how you doing today, buddy? What's going on?
Hey, not bad. Just got done with some big production runs. So.
Very nice. Hey, that's not a bad thing these days. And actually, 2020 sounds like it's been a crazy year for everybody who's been in the outdoor business, but especially in bait making. It sounds like, there's a lot of there's no shortage of orders,
Yeah, no, honestly, 2020 was, for the most part, pretty good for JIGMASTERS, picked up a lot of new stores. That was one of the biggest areas that I saw increases in.
Yep. That's awesome, man. That's huge. So we're going to go ahead and jump into it. I always like to include Sean the Fisherman for some of these whenever we're talking with, bait makers, and we like to kind of go over some of these details and talk about, some of the differences, some of the products that some of these companies offer specifically. So, Cody, let's get started. Tell me about JIGMASTERS. Tell me about how the company came to be, sort of what the mission statement is. Explain me, what it is that you guys are offering for products. Give us sort of the history.
Yeah. So actually, funny enough, JIGMASTERS was originally just going to be a YouTube channel. Okay. It wasn't even going to be a product, based company. It was really just like an instructional, how to when and where to fish certain jigs. And pretty much what happened was the first time I went to shoot some video on the water, one of my favorite jig companies at the time, which, I won't name any names or anything, but every time I was casting their jig, the paint would knock off of the head.
Oh yeah.
And it was like a green pumpkin based jig. Mm-hmm. And every time I would, fish it back, I'd pick it up and a lot of the head would be black and red. And which tells me they're repainting the jig heads.
Oh.
They probably had some, low sellers and they were just trying to reprocess some for the higher volume, variants.
Yep.
And so I reached out to them. And I said, nothing. I said, hey, look, I've always loved your product. Not looking for any free stuff or anything, but just so you guys know, you can't really paint over already cured paint.
Yeah.
It's just too smooth of a surface. It's not going to adhere to it. And you're going to lose all your durability. And instead of, really not even just, not even responding to the email or anything, mm-hmm. They actually, reached out and kind of sent me a nasty gram on, mind your own business.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
And, and from right there, basically from that email, I switched over. I was like, you know what? I think I can do better.
Yeah.
And that's where, the whole product-based company started.
That's awesome. Now, you offer some pretty, I know that your jig head design is really unique. Explain to me sort of how it was, was there a problem that you were looking to kind of put a fix to? How was it you got there to your standard casting jig head design?
Yeah. So for my signature flipping jig, that's kind of mm-hmm. my, quote unquote cornerstone piece. That was kind of the original jig I put out there and still the, the most popular product I sell.
Yep.
And really what it was is, I love flipping timber.
Yeah.
And I always felt that, there were good jigs, but not great ones for flipping timber. It seemed like no matter what you threw, you would eventually snag up, 5, 6 casts, whatever.
Yeah.
And, really what I did some testing, obviously did some, preliminary design and stuff like that. And what I found out is that kind of weird triangular boxy shape actually seems to be very optimal. And there's a few reasons why. So one was it's very hard for that jig to fall on its side. When you cast it, it has a huge flat, like a big stand-up pad. And when that jig stays straight up and down, all you're worried about is snagging up basically the thickness of the hook. Or if it falls to its side off that initial pickup, you are worried about the gap of the hook, which is obviously, 10, 20 times larger than the diameter of the hook. And and just having that little bit triangular, where it all kind of meets to a point at the line tie, that helps it kind of come through cover when you're swimming it a little bit. But yeah, it was kind of just taking on some of those principles on, making sure that, hey, there's a good, stand up pad on it to where it's not going to fall on its side. And then also on the swimming side, that big blunt surface kind of acts similar to how like a square bill crankbait acts.
Also, it gives it a little bit of action as you're swimming it along. It kind of gives it some shake.
So when you swim it, it'll kind of make some errant darts, which obviously it's not meant for swimming. But anytime that, you do swim that back, you'll kind of little dart to the left, sometimes dart to the right. And a lot of times that'll trigger bites.
That's pretty awesome. I'm looking at one of the signature flipping jigs right now, and you can definitely tell, like, you take this out of the package and you can 100% see that this is not this. There's been a little bit more thought that's gone on into this than just having that almost like an oblong shape so that it's sort of flat. The way that it may rest, you're kind of, expecting a lot from that sort of surface. And it's very easy to see here exactly what you're talking about. This is a pretty badass jig. Now, do you guys do exclusively lead jigs, or do you get into any non-lead or some lead alternatives?
So what I do offer, and just actually recently started offering for, a lot of the states now where, they're, lead literally isn't allowed, they're lead free states, New Hampshire, Maine comes to mind, kind of those.
We're one of them. Massachusetts is one of them too.
Gotcha. Right. So, right now, I'm trying to actually set up on the website, but right now what I've been kind of telling people to do is reach out to me.
Yep.
Whether it's via, just through the website contact page, or whether it's, social media, whatever. I do offer basically making them out of bismuth or a bismuth tin alloy.
Gotcha.
Which gives you similar feel to lead, but it's not lead.
It's not lead. Yeah, exactly. You'll save a big fine. That's awesome.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's
and
great.
on my side, I've always been curious on, kind of how they police that.
Let
me jump in there, Bobby.
Yeah, go ahead.
Cody,
go
they
ahead,
don't.
Sean.
Right. I always kind of felt like it's one of those things like if you get caught for something else, that maybe then they confiscate the gear and do some testing on it, right? But
yeah, I would guess so. I have not actually heard of anybody in Massachusetts getting tagged for it. I mean, really, when it comes to competitive fishing, there are certain lead products that are not made lead free yet. The industry hasn't caught up to them. So honestly, it's up to tournament directors. Just like you're checking a proper measuring board, or you're checking a license, or you're checking, whatever rule you have, it's up to a tournament. With competitive, it's up to a tournament director to make sure that the people that are competing are not gaining any sort of an unfair advantage by using a product that's not available lead free.
Yeah.
As far as recreational fishermen, I don't think anyone gives a shit. To be quite honest,
at least you're blunt about it, right?
You might be right.
Well, I don't know if you listen to this. Yeah, if you listen to the show, we sprinkle some language in. So
yeah, I got you. Yeah, that's fair.
That's actually a really good point. I remember it was probably just about a year or two ago. There was a local sportsman show where I was, and the big buzz from booth to booth to booth was like, well, you can't use lead in mass. But what the ruling is lead chatterbaits, lead spinnerbaits, fine in our state as far as it goes. It's just specifically with the jig heads, and so it's just one of these. And what's odd is you can go to your neighborhood tackle store and buy all the lead you want, but that's we know that it's a funny ruling in a handful of states, and it's a little bit tricky, but let's get back to your product. I think you guys offer some really great stuff. I wasn't aware the diversity of products you carried until we got this Dark Horse box just a few weeks ago. You guys have some stick baits in there that have a great, I think it's a small Colorado blade on there, really, really interesting stuff. And then the Gladiator. Tell me about the Gladiator.
I guess I'm not familiar with the Gladiator.
Oh, the Gladiator. Wait, let me see what the name of it. It was inspired by somebody we just started following. It's an Athon's. Oh, I'm sorry, not Gladiator. Gazelle's micro spinner. That's what.
Gotcha.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We're on the same page. Yeah. So the micro spinner was kind of just honestly a concoction. I've been working with her name's Stephanie Ray.
Yep.
She's up in Michigan, which I'm obviously Ohio. Yeah, we were just kind of talking about like she's really big into the panfish, market, and I wanted to start branching out. And I always felt like her like kind of following and stuff like that was a good following, and really wanted to see her succeed and stuff like that, and cared about what she was doing. So then me and her just kind of worked out a deal together, and said hey, what's currently on the market, and what can we do better? Right. And obviously like one of the biggest panfish baits out there are, like small beetle spins and rooster tails.
Oh yeah.
And, we're kind of basically said, well, let's make it a little bit easier to cast by putting a little bit of weight behind it.
Yep.
With the lead, obviously. And then, but we kind of combine those, between a rooster tail and a beetle spin almost.
Yeah, it's definitely cool. I think, we do a lot of focus on multi-species. We lean very forward toward, smallmouth and largemouth. But in the tournaments that we are planning with our listeners, they're going to be based in multi-species. So the idea of having something that's so versatile, to catch, panfish or crappie or, perch. I mean, there's all kinds of great stuff that, in New England, and that would be an absolute killer, but that's awesome. And I love the fact that it's collaborative. I think that the fishing community has a lot to offer as far as input when it comes to bait makers. And the fact that you guys, that JIGMASTERS is a company that listens to that is huge. That's awesome. I love collaborative stuff like that. I love seeing a good plan come together. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Honestly, right now I kind of have, I have 4 different series right now. And obviously Stephanie Ray's is the latest edition. So we're going to be adding a few more products here in the near future to hers. But yeah, like Ron 6 out on the West Coast, he found my flipping jig by accident pretty much. There's a tournament circuit out there that I was kind of helping, like sponsor and stuff, and gave him a bunch of product. Yep. And it's called All-Star Bass Fishing. They do some pretty neat tournaments out there. And they do like a lot of bracket stuff, one-on-one, kind of March Madness style. And one of the stipulations they had was, hey, we have 4 tackle, bait companies, sponsoring this tournament. For 1 hour, you have to use, doesn't matter which one, but you have to use one of the, sponsored products.
Yeah.
So now, and then, which he was a big jig fisherman. And he said, honestly, I looked at your jig. I didn't really want to throw it. He said, it looked goofy to me. Of course, he's getting up there about 50 years old. And he said, but I was on a jig bite. So I really wanted to, he's like, I kind of needed one. He said, so I threw it. And he said, and I was amazed. He said, I was able to skip that thing a mile because they have like a lot of big overhanging willow trees and stuff. Oh, yeah. And he ended up winning that whole tournament series on that jig. That's and then awesome. Won several other ones since, So he reached out. He says, hey, whatever I can do to help, let me know. Right. And, he obviously doesn't know me at all. Right. This is just a guy that's literally across the country from me. And, but anyways, yeah. So we kind of work together and they're really big on, round rubber jigs out there instead of your where most things are, the silicone skirting, where round rubber, obviously you don't have, all the luxurious colors that you do with the silicone, but you get a lot of more action out of the skirt. Mm-hmm. So we do a round rubber series with, several of our products with him. The first one would, be with, Josh and Caitlin Woodward up in Wisconsin. Which they have kind of the most diverse line currently. And they have some terminal tackle options. We have some like ball heads on there, swim bait sleds. And then actually the swim bait itself, the Elite Swimmers, that is co-developed with them, as well as the Marabou drop shot. And then our hair jig as well.
That's awesome. I think is there a Marabou in that dark horse box?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a Marabou drop shot in there.
That was another bait that just floored me. I was like, I could absolutely see throwing one of these. Yeah, this is amazing. That looks fantastic. Unbelievable.
Cody, I'm glad you covered all that because when I had a second, I was going to ask you about the different lines you had that looked to be supported by different folks across the country. That's kind of a neat thing. I don't see that on a lot of different websites or tackle companies. So that's nice that you're putting, you're putting the onus or getting together with these folks, collaborating and say, hey, this is what they like. Make your own choices. But if you're in this area of the country, maybe here's some choices for you or a place to start,
And what an endorsement too, when you think about that. People that are actually out there, and using the products, but that are, lending some input to how it goes. Like that's absolutely huge. One thing, Cody, that I love, I discovered JIGMASTERS listening to an episode of Tackle Talk. I'm a huge fan. I think Andrew Hayes is a great podcaster. He's a great angler. And it was your interview. I remember I was going out fishing, on the Connecticut River with one of our regular contributors. And I was listening to the episode. I'm waiting at the boat launch for him, and I'm listening to the episode. And I love your take on pro staffs. I thought it was so fresh and how could you kind of explain your take on pro staffs and the way that it works? I love the input that you had on Tackle Talk.
Yeah, kind of how I look at it basically is like a lot of things happen. And obviously, you're starting to obviously even see it in podcasting too, right?
Oh, yeah.
Is a lot of these systems get flooded.
Yeah.
Right. And then now, a lot of companies kind of take advantage of it. Like, wow, a lot of people want to be on pro staffs. Let's just raise our prices and add everybody on and give them a 10% discount. And, I just don't like that concept. Yeah. I really haven't, and it was always interesting to me too, is I had a person who had a really big following in the beginning. I was like, oh my gosh, she's going to push so many sales and stuff.
Yep.
And at the time she, it really didn't. And it wasn't like, her, post and all that stuff were getting, absurd amount of, likes and stuff like that. But they just weren't translating the sales. And then I started kind of working with, and this is back when I was kind of doing more of a traditional pro staff stuff.
Yep.
And then I was working with a state trooper down in Kentucky. He called me on the phone while he was on the lake. And I always give him crap, Ethan Lewis. I couldn't understand him to save my life, and most of my family's down there too. So, but his very thick accent, and I said, honestly, everybody that I thought would be home runs in this kind of system really haven't panned out.
Yeah.
Not that they weren't trying or anything.
Oh, yeah.
But
sometimes it doesn't translate.
Yeah. And stuff. So I said, yeah, I'll give you a shot or whatever. And he, within maybe 10 days, he had pushed 18 sales. And
no kidding.
And I looked at his Instagram stuff, see if it was kind of social media driven, and he had 7 followers, which is the first 5 you get are the random cute pets account and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Every time he started Instagram, and stuff. So I called him. I said, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I kind of want to know so I can kind of tell, the others, or, if I'm working with somebody else. He's like, oh, I'm just talking to people.
That's all you got to do.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, wow, that makes a lot of sense. How, how innovative, right? Just talking to people at boat ramps or at stores and stuff.
Yep.
And so that moment there kind of made me realize oh, maybe the traditional pro staff and how it's getting, very, very social media driven and stuff, maybe that's not necessarily the right path for JIGMASTERS.
Yep.
It's kind of a painful volume version. And I'm always with my engineering background, I always like the idea of lean manufacturing and efficiency, so I'm really more focused on keeping the group small. I want everybody that's kind of a part of the, Team JIGMASTERS and stuff to have kind of an actual role per se versus I'm just going to go, fish with your stuff at random and take some photos and tag you.
Exactly.
No, I want everybody kind of more of the, the old school kind of family feel and stuff. And, you had that on the pro staff system back in the, let's say 90s per se, or, even earlier. Pretty much all you had on pro staffs were, tournament anglers, and mid to high level tournament anglers and, guide services and charter captains.
Yep.
And the nice thing about it back then was you knew when they told you, oh, I use, I'm a pro staff, or I use so-and-so tubes or jigs or spinner baits or whatever. You knew it was coming kind of from a wholesome place.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to bring their, basically keep their costs down because fishing is not cheap, as I'm pretty sure everybody knows.
Definitely.
They were really focused on, hey, we want to work with companies that we actually throw their stuff. So when you got a recommendation from them, you felt like it was, coming from an honest place, right?
Yeah.
Joe Bob, the guide who only throws tubes, well, he's not going to waste his time becoming a pro staff for a spinnerbait company.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't do him any good, because he's not throwing them anyways. To where today's world, it seems way more status driven, right? How many brands can I put below my name on my Facebook page, Instagram page, TikTok, whatever, And I hope that kind of starts, coming back. Like I said, I hate to say, it's unreal. As small of a company as I am, how many DMs, emails and stuff I get about pro staff. Half the time they don't even say their name.
Yep. And it's just a copy and paste like, hey, could you throw us some free stuff, or sponsor such and such.
Yeah. And that's one of the hardest things for, especially small bait manufacturers to kind of navigate.
Yeah.
At least like me, one of my biggest goals with this business is I want to start it. I'm funding it square one, no bank loans involved, none of the way. So if I decide, I don't want to make jigs anymore, I smack my hands free, I'm done. There's no like, oh, you still owe $80,000 of debt. Right.
Yeah.
So I've started this very small and just kind of keep gradually growing it. Obviously giving away a bunch of free stuff doesn't quite fit the business model.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
And honestly, that's one of the things, I had, there was one, and this was probably when I really made the move to like, what? I don't want to do the traditional pro staff system.
Yeah.
I know it works for some companies, but not really a JIGMASTERS thing. Is I got an email, it was like 2 a.m. and I woke up, I saw it. And literally it made me so mad that like I couldn't sleep like for the whole day. I was mad the whole next day, which like I'm a pretty even keel guy. And but it was literally like this guy who had reached out, he had a email account necessarily that didn't even have his name in it. It was like something you made for the, a Hotmail from, when you were like 8 years old or something. So you couldn't even tell who he was then. And he said, hey, if your jigs are good as you say they are, send me 20 to 30. And if I like them, I'll buy more. Also, P.S. I wear a size large. So send me a couple of shirts too, free advertising. And then basically I sent him an invoice.
Exactly.
I was like, believe it or not, like that shirt's not free for me. Right. I started laying out all the cost. And, my cost actually, I was actually being very transparent with them. And I said, where in the world does that equal free advertising?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I can't pay my bills with exposure. I can't.
Yeah. I always tell people I can't go to Huntington with likes, right? Like they're going to laugh at me. So
it's true. It's and I feel like the route that you're taking is something that the reason why I think this kind of struck such a chord with me is I'm a big believer in success comes from authenticity. So when you have a bunch of pro staffers representing your stuff that are not necessarily authentic, they're just like throwing up posts at social media and it's not translating to sales. Well, that's why. People that are viewing this stuff are seeing right through it and they realize that, oh, well, this person is such and such and they're going to tag all these things and, it just doesn't come across the right way. So I commend you, man, for doing it your way. I think it's awesome.
Once again, like that whole kind of thing is just flooded, the people who are, on Instagram, on Facebook, stuff like that. Yeah. They're kind of just numb to it, right? They don't even read the captions anymore. They see the photo, click a like or scroll on, so, when you mentioned your 20 companies you support, they didn't read any of it.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny too. There's a lot of people, especially like with social media, that they'll post their pics and, they'll use their hashtags or whatever, but they won't get in the comments. And that's where your ability to truly promote that almost word of mouth is if somebody says, hey, that jig looks awesome. How do I get those? Where do I get them from? Then, at least following up and saying like, here's such and such, or, even if you're going to be so forward as to say, this is my promo code or whatever it might be, don't just assume they're going to show up and go looking for that because, it goes a long way. Having a conversation, that word of mouth, it's still the best advertising. And whether that's digital or not, but if you're not, actually doing it, then you're doing yourself a huge disservice.
Yeah, and I don't want to sound doom and gloom like, oh my gosh, I hate social media. It's pointless. Like I couldn't be where I'm at now without it either. Because I don't have a big marketing budget or any of that stuff, right? So a lot of the preliminary stuff on reaching people and, kind of, obviously I'm not traveling everywhere and stuff, just getting to meet. I mean, one of the people I forgot to mention there as far as the lure series is Dennis Narcisse down in Louisiana. Mm-hmm. He's the one where that whole stick and spin, the stick bait with the blade.
Oh, okay.
He's been begging me for, he begged me for a couple of years to finally make it. And I just was like, I don't know if I want to, man. It's almost a little too weird for me, which is kind of crazy to say.
It's unique. That's for sure.
Which there are some versions out there where they're like add-on features.
Yeah.
There's like the Poche power spinner and stuff like that, but you just lose your blade so quick.
Yep.
And he said, can you solve this? And I said, well, I like to think I can solve anything.
Yeah, of course.
But it took some time. We looked at freaking putting, string into it to hold it where basically you're loop. It became a nightmare for a little bit. And then we were actually able to kind of find essentially a wire form that I could I load into the mold before I inject.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then that's how you get the strength is that when you're curing it, it cures around that wire form.
Right around the that is awesome. Because that's the one thing, when I saw them in the package, I was like,
idea.
Yeah, I was like, could you imagine throwing a stinger hook back there? But in my mind, I was thinking that this was just a simple screw-in blade, just to add a little extra flash or make, like what you would throw on like a makeshift underspin, something like that. But if it's one cohesive, that's awesome, man. Yeah, you nailed it. Engineering background, 100%. That is awesome.
Yeah. And trust me, I went through a lot darker paths too, until I realized like, oh my gosh, it's actually a lot simpler than I thought.
Yeah. No, that is killer. That puts it almost, there's a weird topwater bait that I came across last summer and I threw it and there were some things I didn't like about it. It's a topwater, but it's a soft plastic topwater. It's called a motorboat.
Okay.
13 Fishing puts it out. And it's funny because it's got a wire that travels entirely through the plastic, and the hook, it's pre-rigged. Everything is already in there.
Yeah, right.
The only drawback that I have is that the blade that's on it, it's almost like a buzzbait blade. It's plastic, so it doesn't really have the oomph that you would like it to have. Right. So it doesn't really spin exactly the right way. But that's what I'm thinking of is like, yeah, so this could get hammered and not get ripped to shreds. You know? That's great.
Because honestly, I mean, obviously, blades are a lot more expensive than the soft plastic is,
Definitely.
right? So it really stinks if you lose the blade and you still have your worm.
Yeah, you're like, great, I got a Senko. Awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me wacky rig this sucker. So let's go ahead and shift gears. We'll talk about fishing. Let's get to the the preferences, things that you like. Why don't you go ahead and start out and give me the story about how was it that fishing was introduced into your life, and then kind of walk me down the road to the point where you got to where you are now, where you like you said you were doing like tutorial stuff on YouTube and then bait making. So walk me through the sort of the story.
Yeah. So, really, I got into it at a very, very young age. My dad was a big tournament angler out on Lake Erie, fished the Salmoid series and fished with some of the people now that have kind of become, quote unquote, bigger guns out there.
Yep.
And, so pretty much like I always tell people like, I didn't really have a chance or a choice, I just grew up on a boat and, loved it. And, I mean, he had me out in the water. There's pictures of me like steering the boat, obviously as a joke, but I'm like, 1 year old in a life jacket.
Yep.
And, but yeah, so I've always just been around it, and those, some of that time on the water, especially with your dad or, whoever, it's tough to beat.
Oh yeah.
And, but yeah, he was always a he's kind of where I got like my really technical side on, he was never happy with going on the water and catching 10 fish. Oh, well, if I can catch 10, that means they're somewhat active. I should be able to figure them out and catch 50.
Yep.
Or, oh, these fish I know there's bigger fish here. He really had more of like a data driven, kind of style, which once again, he's, has an engineering background as well, so that's all we love data, right?
I can't imagine who that reminds me of at all.
Yeah. Right. But, he got me out. I was young, got me out often. And every time we'd go out, it was always kind of more of I don't want to say serious, like we still had fun, stuff like that, but he really wanted me to learn versus just taking me on the boat.
Yes.
So, and that's, really where I got in, just really got deep into fishing. And pretty much as far as, at the time, I never thought about bait making, and which he used to make kind of his own spinner baits and stuff like that back in the day. Obviously never, try to take it on as a full business or any of that stuff. It was more just personal. Yeah. He was bored during the winter and didn't like ice fishing. So, so I knew a little bit about bait making, but really never got into it. We were always just dabbling with, kind of like pre-made heads and stuff. But pretty much when I got into the whole, move to pretty much right as I got out of college, that's when I really started the whole JIGMASTERS. Originally it was going to be JIGMASTERS TV, which I still have at some point in time. I keep teasing it and I keep not doing it, but I still do plan to have JIGMASTERS TV, which is going to be that instructional kind of, hey, this product, here's how you use it, all short clips, minute and a half, stuff like that, nothing crazy. But yeah, when I started JIGMASTERS basically right as I got out of college. And the whole reason why was I was working 80 hours a week as an engineering intern. And I was also still doing like 18 to 20 credit hours of engineering school.
Oh, geez.
And then when I graduated, well, I ended up being, getting into a salary position. So I was only working 40, 50, 55 hours for the most part, at least right at that time. And then I didn't have the college either. And I just like to be busy, There you go. And stuff. I was like, oh, I got to fill these hours. And I said, I've always loved fishing. I kind of want to, try a little passion project there.
That's awesome. And it makes sense when you go out of a lifestyle where you're just like, go, 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 go all the time. And you've got a fully stocked, docket of stuff to do day in and day out. And then things kind of lighten up a little bit as far as your workload. It's a tough adjustment because you're like, I've got all this time. So I could definitely see where that would come into play.
Yeah. And I've always, like, even as a kid and everything, like, I've always just kind of had a little bit more of a drive than most. Like, it was the weird thing. Like, it wasn't necessarily like a super competitive thing, but like, it was more just personal. Like, oh, I want to get better at this. I want to get better at this. I didn't, like, once again, just like my dad fishing when, he was, kind of raising me on the boat was, never settle for being good enough, or, whatever, just keep trying to grow. Yep. And, so I kind of just have carried that on into this, this business venture.
That's awesome. That's freaking awesome. When you're out, like, let's talk like creature comforts. Is there a season? Now you said you're based in Ohio?
Yep. I'm in Northwest Ohio. I'm about 45 minutes from Lake Erie. Okay.
So being in Ohio, you guys actually have seasons. Some of the guests we talked to, they're not anywhere near where we've got 4 seasons. Is there a season that you prefer to be out, like just for yourself, not necessarily because of the way that, the fish are acting, but is there something that, like a season that you prefer?
Oh, I'm a huge mid to late fall guy.
Yep.
Probably last week, maybe 2 weeks of October into pretty much up to December. Those are really depending, on the normal year. That's probably my favorite 4 to 6 weeks of fishing. Those fish, they're putting the, quote unquote feed bag on.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say they're necessarily as easy to catch as they are in springtime, but But you're also, there's a lot of lakes that I fish that, where I'm used to seeing 20, 30 boats, and now you're seeing maybe one or two.
Yeah, that's a definite factor.
Yeah, and honestly, that's when I go fishing now, I mean, it's a getaway, right? And if Joe Bob on the jet ski is driving 5 feet from your boat, it doesn't quite feel like a getaway anymore.
Exactly.
And but yeah, so mid to late fall has always been a special time of the year for me.
Nice. Now, what about like bodies of water? Are there certain types of bodies of water that you like to fish more than others? Are you looking for current? Are you more into river systems, or are you looking for larger lakes to break down, or is pond hopping more your thing?
Honestly, I mean, like, I like fishing, Lake Erie itself.
Yep.
I do a lot of stuff in the marinas for largemouth. I don't quite do a lot of the smallmouth stuff. Mm-hmm. Just because you really got to put a lot more time out there to, kind of find them and keep on them.
Yep.
It's not quite as easy as, some of the largemouth fishing there. But honestly, I might be the world's biggest quarry fan.
Oh, okay.
Possibly is. I absolutely love quarry fishing.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I could see that. Especially like if you like to, throw jigs that much, I could definitely see where that would come in handy.
Honestly, quarries, and I never even because my dad never threw jigs or anything. But now he was more of a smallmouth fisherman.
Yep.
So I really never even threw a jig until pretty much as I got into college, but I was fishing a couple local quarries a lot. And that's kind of where the whole passion for jigs, came from, was a lot, because for a while there, jig fishing was kind of a lost art, pretty much everybody and their brothers throwing Texas rigs. And you're kind of seeing that right now with the same thing with chatterbait versus spinnerbait. Yep. So many people don't throw spinnerbaits anymore.
Oh yeah.
And, but yeah, so I decided, I was like, you know what? I know jigs are more of a big fish bait. I want to start learning them. And I started throwing them in quarries and just started hammering them.
That's the big reason why I started, was because they're a big fish bait. Yeah.
Yep. And I always tell people, your average fish, and I still feel very confident that, the average size fish you catch on a jig will be bigger than the average size fish caught on a creature bait or a tube or whatever. Now, that doesn't mean you're not going to catch big fish on those baits.
It's true.
But you are going to catch a lot of squealers too. And it seems like for the most part, you don't have that issue with, a skirted football, skirted flipping head, jig.
Now, what about as far as baits? I'm going to throw a little spin on this one for you. I normally ask everybody what their top 3 confidence baits are. I'm going to ask you, besides a traditional flipping jig, what are your top 3 confidence baits?
So I am a freaking spinnerbait cowboy.
Yeah.
I am absolutely, and the spinnerbait I put out, it's about, I want to say probably about 4 months ago.
Okay.
That spinnerbait is like a pretty big passionate lure launch for me.
Yeah.
Because one of the big things you see with a lot of other companies putting spinnerbaits out is they put relatively small blades on them. For the weight, you'll see a half ounce with, let's say it's a double willow, it'll just be double 4 blades.
Yep.
Or even if it's a Colorado willow, you'll see a size 3 Colorado and a 4.5 willow,
Yep.
Like my half ounce Colorado willow, that comes with a size 4 Colorado and a size 6 willow.
I had a feeling it was going to be a 6.
Yeah. It's, I love throwing big blades. Once again, that's another just huge confidence bait for big fish for me.
Yep.
And honestly, and that's pretty much, I start out with that, as my main search bait. I've just always loved spinnerbaits, and that's, like I said, that's one kind of allude back to my father there. Mm-hmm. That was the one thing he always told me. He said, don't ever buy a store brand spinnerbait. He says, he was very adamant, like, we can make them way better. He said, we can make them, not that they're way cheaper because we use very good components and stuff, but it was always we can balance them out a lot better and stuff. And then, so my mission was to design a head that wouldn't roll on you with the bigger blades.
Interesting. I'll have to check that. So that's funny because that's always been one of the baits that I have never really connected with was throwing a spinnerbait. I've got friends that swear by them up and down. Although it's funny, these same friends that I'm thinking of, they love those $1 Walmart spinnerbaits. They're just like, oh, they're so cheap. You just get, whatever. But there is a science to spinnerbaits. There really is. There's people who love them and they mixing up blade sizes and blade types and painted versus different finishes, things like that. It all comes into play, and it's a very customizable presentation. Trail or no trailer, stinger hook or not. There's a lot that you can do with it there. So that's one of those baits I have to put more on. Well, what else do you have? What else do you lean on aside from a jig?
Honestly, a pivot head is one of my other favorites. Mm-hmm. A wobble head, swinging football head, whatever you want to call it. I choose pivot head. But that's one of kind of one of my other go-to search baits, when I don't feel necessarily confident in the time of the year that, they're going to be hitting a spinnerbait or something like that, or a traditional jig. I love covering water with a pivot head for sure.
Awesome.
Traditionally throwing like a 4-inch chigger crawl. That's kind of become like just my favorite all around plastic.
Yep.
I do have a 4-inch crawl coming out pretty soon here that I'm pretty excited for. So hopefully that becomes my new favorite. Right. But yeah, honestly, the pivot heads, if I go fish a tournament, if I'm fishing it blind, especially inland water, I have outside of obviously like a flipping jig, that's, obviously what I'm known for. Spinnerbait, pivot head, buzzbait.
Nice.
And I just go crazy with those for most of the day.
I love it. That's awesome. This next question I've been waiting like weeks to ask you.
Okay.
So I'm sure you're familiar with the old saying that fishing tackle catches way more fishermen than it actually will catch fish. In your entire lifetime, what do you think is the most ridiculous tackle trend that the industry has given us? And the follow-up question is 2 parts. Have you used it? And did it work?
Oh, man. Yeah, that's a toughie.
Yeah, there's a lot of crap out there.
The downside is there's also a lot of maybe not so intelligent bass either, so
that too.
They get hit, right?
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. As far as one that I saw recently that I was just like, what in the world? And there was a fad kind of on Lake Erie for about a year until everybody realized wow, these are really expensive and we just lose them like crazy. Mm-hmm. There's a tube head that actually uses a frog hook. So you have the double hook, they call it kind of like a goby head.
Yep.
And it's like a, trocar freaking frog hook, right? So it's like a 2-pack for tube heads, and it's like $11. Something absurd,
Oh my God.
And and the more comical thing is trocars aren't necessarily great for smallmouth. You actually want a lighter wired hook for smallmouth because there's so much muscle there. You want a tiny pinhole to try to pierce with.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of hookup issues, and they were just, like I said, losing them like crazy. So that's one. And then one that I would say that I've almost gotten in fights with is literally putting eyes on any kind of swimming style bait.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it's a swim jig, whether it's a spinner bait, whether it's I've just never been a believer in that you need eyes, and I've had so many customers, I shouldn't say so many, but I've had a few customers passionately reach out and say, oh, you got to be putting eyes on your jigs. You got like, look at this. And they'll send me, some other companies and stuff. And I was like, do you realize that companies also charging $7 a jig, right?
Yeah.
I said, I try to do what I truly think is important for you to catch fish.
Yeah.
While keeping the cost down. I'd never want to be the company that price gouges anybody.
Yeah.
I'm not in it to make $1 million. I'm in it just because I like doing it.
Yeah. You're not looking to add fluff. And really, let's be honest. I've said it a bunch, or I've heard it a bunch from other people when you'll see this, a new swim bait comes out or even a spinnerbait, and they'll look at the head and they're just like, oh, but look, those eyes look awesome. And it's like, that's for you, not the fish.
Yeah. Yeah, that eye just cost you $2.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, they're not cheap.
Yeah, yeah, that's one of the things too. And I mean, honestly, I think those are kind of the main ones that I was just like, guys, like we're not thinking it through. We're letting these companies kind of, sell us on, well, whether it's just, making it look, fancy or stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, look at one of the best crankbaits still on the market is an old school Storm Wigglewort. Those things were hideous, and they still catch fish like crazy. So it's not necessarily always about, just completely aesthetic.
Yeah. Sean, you were going to jump in there. What were you going to throw in there?
Yeah, Cody, just wanted to illustrate that point. I mean, I have a crankbait. It's very rare for me to actually name a crankbait. That crankbait's done some good work for me, and Bobby's seen him. I actually have a crankbait right now that has taken so much abuse over the past 2 years, and I haven't lost it. And it literally looks now like it's been put in a wood chipper. Like you can't see the paint, you can't see the eyes. It is nothing but teeth marks. Yeah, teeth marks from large chain pickerel, and a lot of bass have hit it too. And it earned a name. If I've got a lure that has a name, Old Blue is my guy right now. So I completely agree with you. Like you don't like. There's a lot of lures that don't need that. There's a degree of lifelikeliness I think you should maintain, but eyeballs, yeah, give or take. You know what I mean? It's not like something I look for. But you're right.
Yeah, no, and certainly I don't think it's a feature that hurts you.
No.
It's just, when they get into some of the, super crazy, delicate paint jobs and, the glass eyes and stuff like that, like that's all just jacking up. All that cost is being transitioned to the customer. Right. And, I obviously with 2020 going on, I know a lot of people don't necessarily have a whole bunch of money, in their pockets to spend, $9 or, $6-7 per jig. You're going to lose a jig eventually, right?
Oh yeah. If you're not losing them, you're not fishing them.
Right, exactly. So like I said, the big cost thing is very important to me for sure.
No, I agree, man. I love these next couple of questions are a little bit weird, but I love them. I'm a big believer in that, people fish for a million different reasons. And we said it in a live stream we did just earlier that everybody can get what they need out of fishing. All they have to do is just go and get it, whether it's competitive or it's a break from the daily grind or it's just reconnecting with nature. Maybe it's, more about family, whatever that might be. I'm a huge believer that, sometimes being out and fishing with people can take what would be an okay or even a garbage experience and make it amazing. So with that said, why don't you give me your top 3 people that you would love to fish with? And they can be living or dead. It doesn't matter.
All right. And these are people that I haven't fished with yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Or I'd even take someone that you wanted another trip with or something like that. That'd be fine too.
Yeah. Well, we'll stick to people I haven't fished with.
Okay.
So, obviously the jig goat, right? Denny Brower.
Okay.
Has to be up there. I've one of his sayings that plays through my head all the time, and especially when I was tournament fishing was fishing a lot was, hey, I might only catch 4 fish all day, but my 4 will outweigh your 5.
Yeah.
Because that's all he did was flip a jig all day for a solid 20 years,
Yeah.
Until recently he does seem to be a little bit more diverse now, so Denny Brower would be up there for sure. And then honestly, probably taking maybe a weird tangent here. A person like, I'm kind of a science nerd.
Okay.
And probably like a person like Eric Weinstein,
all right.
Just, has a very interesting and articulate way to, kind of see our current like social, issues and stuff like that, as well as just, on the science side too, a lot of the, the nuances there. So that would probably be another one, man, for a third one. Oh, geez. For a third one, I would probably have to say, honestly, it would probably be Elon Musk.
Elon Musk. Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once again, one of the things that I actually don't think, that people quite catch up on that I absolutely love about him, whether, genius or not, is when somebody asks him a question,
Yep.
he literally is dead silent for like 20 seconds and then responds. And it's like, you're actually seeing like, oh my gosh, this guy's a human being. He's actually thinking about it before he's just rambling.
Yes.
And, and especially in today's world, interviews, a lot of times, stuff like that, and especially on the, more politicized kind of media is everybody's trying to catch that 5-second clip.
Yeah.
So, you see like, oh my gosh, I only got 10 seconds to talk. I got to say something outrageous so people, look up my name,
Exactly. Yeah. You got to commandeer that minimal soundbite that you get.
Yeah. Right. And, two, and if I just chuck in a fourth one, let's say 3A and 3B, would be David Goggins.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to know how that guy does it. I don't get it. I don't know if you're too familiar with him or not, but the guy's an absolute savage.
No kidding.
Yeah, I mean, he just he ran. One of my favorite stories was he was a big guy. He used to kind of be in the, he used to just be overweight per se, as he would say. And then he kind of got into bodybuilding, was still, never focusing on having a six pack. So he was a solid, 260 pounds.
Yeah.
Not necessarily built for marathon running, or especially like the ultra running, the ultra marathons where they're trying to run like 100 miles.
Yep.
And out of nowhere, he just decides to do it. And he shows up to this race. And the one guy says, he's like, and it's supposed to be like, it's a relay kind of thing. You bring you and 3 other buddies, I run a mile, he runs a mile, he runs a mile. He says, David Goggins showed up with no friends. He ran the whole thing by himself.
Okay. Holy crap, man.
Yeah. So I've always been curious because he always talks about like, he didn't used to be that way. And basically he forced himself. And I've always been intrigued on, people out on the fringe kind of thing, that can push their own limits. We always think that like, oh man, like I can only bench that like 10 times. And then you see a guy half your size bench at 30 and you're like, what? Like, how is he doing
possible?
that?
Yeah,
right. And I've always been intrigued where you see a lot of people that seem to have a lot more mental strength than just purely physical.
No, that makes sense, man. Another weird kind of question, but there's a lot of people that I've learned over the last year that listen to music while they're fishing, and that's kind of, there are some folks that they go one way or the other with that, whether they like to listen to music while fishing or not. But generally, most people are listening to something on their way to the water. What is it that you're generally listening to kind of get yourself hyped up when you're going out to fish?
I will say over probably the past couple of years, I don't want to say completely because that's not true, but I've honestly just really turned more to podcast, period.
Yeah.
I like just kind of learning or hearing about new stuff, and obviously, everybody's a huge fan of, like Joe Rogan's podcast, stuff like that. Sure. But honestly, kind of my favorite one that I listen to is Lex Friedman.
Okay.
And stuff. And he's kind of like the more science-based side of, a lot of similar guests that Joe has, but it's more of the science-based stuff. But as far as music go, I mean, I like a wide variety of stuff, but for some reason, like nothing just resonates more with me than classic rock.
I think it's the best for going out and spending the day on the water. Yeah. Like give me some Zeppelin or some Floyd and I'm delighted.
Yeah. I mean, I love them both. Big Heart fan.
Yep. All right.
Really like them. I mean, honestly, man, it's, I don't know why I've always like, I'll go through fads for like, maybe I listen to these people for a month or, maybe I'm into country music for a month and stuff, but if you took 9 or 10 months out of the year, every year, it's classic rock.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I can't complain about. Now, when you had submitted yours on the schedule, that website that I gave you for this, you left a couple of really interesting points, and I want to make sure that we get to them. The first one, and I'm a business owner as well. I'm really interested in this, but you said that you love to talk about navigating and starting a business with a minimal budget and no bank loan. I did the same thing multiple times in my life. I'm curious about your take on it. With how you did it. Explain a little bit about what you mean by that too.
Yeah, so in a weird way, I kind of almost, at least for me, and everybody's different, but I kind of see it as an optimal way of doing it. because the beautiful thing when you first start is, everybody's worried about, the financials, right? They get so focused on, oh my gosh, I got to make money. I got to make money. I got to make money.
Yeah.
And which me, I mean, obviously it's a little bit easier for me to say, I had an engineering position. I didn't have a bunch of, mouths to feed and stuff, so if things got tight, I could eat ramen noodles for the month and be morally okay with it versus trying to feed little kids that for a full month. But, it was just one of those things like, hey, any free time I got, put it towards this little passion project you got going.
Yeah.
And, one of the things when I first designed the flipping jig, and this is one of the reasons I think it's kind of important to start small, is when I first designed basically the preliminary version of the flipping jig that, now people buy today, I had several issues with it. Weed guard placement was too far away, was hanging up. So you had a better hookup ratio maybe, but it was, hanging up, had a lot of stuff to learn on the manufacturing side as far as getting stronger powder paints.
Yeah.
Making the skirt look nicer, figuring out how to lay it a little bit better, just a bunch of these different things, because I hadn't made jigs. I said, I'm going to become a bait making company. And I was kind of starting from almost square one, as far as the knowledge base. But one of the things that I spent a good chunk of change in getting like a custom mold made. And then, like I said, there was a few design features, needed a better trailer keeper, stuff like that, that just weren't there. And I was kind of stuck at wow, I sunk a lot of money into this mold, which I've learned how to, obviously get them, a little bit better cost efficiency now. But, I sunk a bunch of money in this mold, but at the same time, I can't put this product out there.
Yeah.
But the beautiful thing is starting small, there wasn't a big demand for them. Nobody knew about it.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So you had that time to think.
That's exactly it. And time is really valuable when you're starting.
Yeah, basically, and I had to, I was at a crossroads, and I kind of came to the conclusion that, as flooded as a lot of these markets, industries, whatever are getting, it doesn't mean you can't make it in one. Mm-hmm. But what it means is there's no room anymore for mediocrity. I really believe that. I mean, you look at it on YouTube, right? Your a lot of your Guggen Squad guys, stuff like that.
Yep.
They put a lot of effort into their videos early on.
Yeah.
And, they kind of said, or like Fluke Master or, guys like that, they set a new standard to how fishing YouTube's done. So, anymore the, Joe Bob that, has his, GoPro Gen 1 and it's super clear or super blurry and, you can't really hear him. You don't really know what he's even doing. You just say, oh, hey, he caught a fish. I don't know what he's throwing or anything, but, whatever. There's just no room for that anymore if you're trying to, make it bigger. But that was one of the big things too. And then like we already touched on earlier was, just the absurd amount of requests for free stuff. Yeah. Any financial planning you've probably done did not assume, a lot of that. And you get bombarded really hard. Mm-hmm. And, depending on your personality, you might just do it and be like, oh, well, how it'll pay off later. And the question you always got to ask yourself was like, well, will it?
Yeah.
Like what does that guy who's, never told anybody what lures he's using, how is he going to help you by throwing, with the free stuff you gave him?
Exactly.
And maybe outside of some design feedback, but you don't need that many people to help on design feedback.
You keep your circle close, right. That's actually performing with giving you quality information, and then you go based on that. Yeah, absolutely right. If you can't give everything away for free.
Yeah. And that's a huge thing. Like, just like you said, you kind of find your right circle. You don't want people who are just trying to get a bunch of free product.
Exactly.
You do want people that care, but you also want people that will be honest. Because the constructive criticism is insanely useful and powerful.
Yep. When everybody's kissing your ass,
Right.
it does you no good.
Yeah, no, it doesn't, and I've seen plenty of people out. Like I've one time, like on purpose, to a person that was kind of doing kind of a local buddy or whatever. He's like, "Oh, dude, everything you make is amazing." I actually, like, just as a joke, I sent him like a couple of jigs where I didn't even like glue the weed guard in, like just knowing they would fall out, right? And stuff. And then I was like, "Hey man, how'd those jigs do for you?" He's like, "Oh, dude, they're the best. They were great." And I looked in his tackle box and there's no weed guards. And stuff. And I was like, "Oh," so I was like, "But you would tell me like if I had like a quality issue or something, right?" And he's like, "Oh, for sure, for sure." And I was like, "Really?" Because that's kind of weird. Because there's my jigs without weed guards, and stuff. And I just told him, I said, when I give you a bait or two or whatever, or we're fishing and I have you throwing one too, like I want your utmost honest opinion. Don't sugarcoat it.
Yeah.
Because that sugarcoating hurts me long term. It does not help me.
Yep.
I'm confident enough as is, so I don't really need that. I need quality feedback.
No, absolutely. I can't agree more. I think it's critical to, you kind of nailed it when you said depending on your personality, because there's some people who have thicker skins than others, and you don't want to, I've run into situations in my business where like you don't want to insult what somebody's doing because they genuinely think like they're just killing it. You know what I mean? Right. But that's you think about it and then you're just like, God, that's because everybody around you has been telling you that like this is the best, the best product or the best service or whatever it is. And it's like if somebody says, I love it when somebody says, "Hey, you know what would be great?" And I'll tell you, it's funny because when you start business, I don't know if you found this, but strangers would just say, "You know what you should do." Did you get that a lot?
Oh yeah. And it's, once again, I mean, I'm a big person, the world's not black and white, it's gray.
Yeah.
Everything's painfully nuanced. It sucks because like I love knowing an answer, but a lot of times there isn't. There's 1,000 answers and 1,000 wrong ones, and that is one thing you get a lot. Now, not all of that is valuable either. You have to kind of figure out how to decipher some of that.
I couldn't agree more. Absolutely right.
Because one of the things you have to realize is, for example, I get this all the time, and especially a while back, "Oh, you got to make a chatterbait."
Yep.
I said, okay, but there's a very pretty well written patent that puts me at risk doing so. And people are like, "Oh, don't worry about it. Like they won't figure it out." And then you're seeing these guys like get people and sell them on Facebook,
Oh yeah.
And which, more power to them. And, it's like the one thing you kind of come to realize is, you naturally are going to have your best interest, more than other people will have for you.
Definitely.
It's kind of just natural, right? We're all semi-selfish to a extent.
Yep.
And you also got to realize that like when most of the people say, "Oh, you should be doing this or this or this," like that's as far as they thought it through.
Exactly.
Like in the beginning, like, "Oh, you got to be," here's a great example. I had a kind of couple local anglers. I wouldn't even call them like necessarily like quote unquote buddies or anything. I knew of them. They're like, "Oh, dude, like I'll get you in the store. Like you got to get into the retail shops and stuff." And at the time, I was just buying 25 hooks at a time from Netcraft. Like I wasn't, I had just started, and and I didn't even know what the wholesale pricing would be.
Yeah.
But basically at the time, it was costing me like materials, like not even my labor, because I was just buying so low volume.
Mm-hmm.
Like it cost me $2.50 to make that jig you're holding.
Oh, I believe it.
And materials, mm-hmm. and you go to a retail shop and they say, "Oh, well, we're going to give you 50 or 60%, depending on how big or small they are."
Exactly.
Normally it's 60, and I always try to hold fast at that number.
Yep.
But like, "Oh, we're going to buy 500 jigs and we'll pay $240 from them." It's like, well, crap, I'm selling for a loss.
Exactly. Now it's costing me this much.
And once again, it was just, like when people recommend that stuff, like they just haven't thought it through.
Yep.
Now that's not like blame them. Like they don't know your pricing and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So they just see what other companies are doing and they feed that right to you. You know, like, oh, hey, this guy, they just sold these crankbaits. It has 13 treble hooks on it. You should be doing that. It's like, well, maybe not, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's just a lot of times people see stuff and I think, you should do it too.
Well,
and that's as far as that thought goes.
And sometimes the motivation, like you nailed it, like selfishness, sometimes what they're telling you is just what would work for them. And they think that that would work for everybody because they've got that one perspective of, oh, you got to do a chatterbait. Because a chatterbait, I mean, I catch them all the time on a chatterbait.
Right.
But, you know, it's like that's the thing. That's the as far as their vision goes is outside that little box of personal space they have. And they're not taking into consideration market. They're not taking consideration the risk, you know, for patents and things like that. Like it's pretty crazy. There's another thing that you had put in here that I'd love to get your input about is navigating a consistent medium growth year to year and why doing so is important. Explain to me what it is that you mean by a medium growth.
Well, yeah, you know, once again, you know, I kind of see this business as like a momentum thing, right? You know, there's a few things that happen. So one, if you grow too fast, there's likely at least in a product-based business, there's likely some quality checks you don't have in place.
Oh, I've seen that happen in the service industry as well.
And if the volume gets too high, you don't have time to put them in place now. You know, so and then, you know, one of the things I always say, you know, talking about like growing, you know, starting small, stuff like that is, man, when you're first starting, that's a great time to figure out a quality issue. You know, because not many people have your product, you know, and appease those people. It's a lot easier than appeasing thousands. You know?
Yeah, you don't have the orders and deadlines that you're trying to compete with. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. You know, and, you know, one of the biggest things that I think is huge, you know, as a business, you know, your word should be your word. You know, if you tell this store, hey, we're going to have whatever you order, we're going to have it there by next Wednesday. And then they put in 1,200 jigs and you're like, well, heck, that's going to take me a month and a half.
Yeah.
You know, like those things will kill you, you know, because, you know, 1,000 compliments can be ruined by, you know, one bad review kind of thing. It's
true.
You know, it's a lot easier to kind of break those down. And as far as the medium growth, though, like you do want to see, you need some form of feedback loop that says, hey, I'm doing something right.
Yeah.
Or if I'm not, you know, we need to kind of fix these things first. You know, because at the end of the day, when you're not starting with a bank loan or any of that stuff, and if you have a whole bunch of, you know, like with me, I have freaking roughly just looking under my table here, I've got like 60 custom molds.
Yep.
You know, those aren't that cheap.
No, definitely not.
You know, and even I get great pricing on them. And even at that, like they're not cheap. It's not like going to buy a candy bar for sure.
No, definitely.
You know, so you do have to start developing some profit.
Yep.
Otherwise, what happens is you'll drive yourself in debt and you kind of just be like, you'll learn to hate the business at that point.
Yep.
You know, if you let that go on for too many years. And once you hate it, you might as well get out, you know, because you need that, you know, the old twinkle in the eye kind of thing, right? You know, you need that passion.
That's going to drive you, you know?
Yeah. You know, energy is so often overlooked, you know, if you don't like what you're doing, especially as your own business, you know, you're very unlikely to put out some good products or good designs, or, you know, maybe you cut corners because you just don't care that much anymore.
Yeah.
So you do want to kind of see a decent response loop on, hey, I'm doing some things right.
No, it makes absolute sense. So this works right in, like, ideally into my next question. Like, where do you see the future? Not just for yourself and JIGMASTERS in business. Like, I want to know, where do you see yourself in the future in, say, the next 5 to 10 years? Where would you like to be? But then also personally, fishing. Like, where would you like to see the next, like, decade or so take you?
Yeah, you know, so I'm really trying to, you know, the growth's been pretty good. Like I said, that nice medium growth. Obviously, I would like to keep that up. Obviously right now I would like to get more space for sure. I'm out in a single car garage and I've taken it over completely for JIGMASTERS. So space is definitely becoming a constraint. But really kind of my big goal with this, especially towards that, maybe 5 to 10 years down the road, is I'm hoping to kind of have a quote unquote like mini headquarters, which is basically a pole barn with like 11 quarters in it for me.
Yeah.
A lot more shop space, but like my big goal is to essentially salary myself at a reasonable rate. Like I'm not in it to make $1 billion, but to provide a great workplace for like, maybe 6 to 10 other people.
Yeah, there you go.
Because obviously, right now, like I can't think of the last friend I talked to who hasn't just absolutely hated their job.
Very common. If you, especially when you work for somebody else, but even when you work for yourself, I've met people who are just like, they're just so jaded they can't,
Yeah, and
I never want to lose that. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, and I hope to be able to kind of like I said, maybe provide a great place for an employment for maybe 5-10 people or whatever, where they can show up to work and actually care about what they're doing.
Yep.
Honestly, and then as far as fish stuff, like I'm kind of a plain Jane guy.
Yep.
I already went through the phases of where I needed like all the new toys and all that stuff and realized like, wow, those cost a lot of money and I don't use them that often, oh man, now I just gotta keep up on maintenance for everything,
Yeah.
So I've kind of already went through those phases, like I said, really it's just, just growing the business. I don't, like I said, I pretty much got everything I need,
That's awesome. Let's talk now. Let's talk like big picture bucket list. Where in the world would you love to fish?
Well, one I'm actually think I'm about to do in May.
Oh, all right.
At the end of May is Lake Fork.
Oh, okay.
So I believe I'm going to make it on Lake Fork with my buddy Brett Quinter. I believe I'm actually kind of technically crashing a bachelor party for a person I don't even know because he wants me to fish with him.
That's awesome.
He says, "Hey, you want to go to a bachelor party?" I said, "Not really." And he says, "Well, we're going to go fish Lake Fork." I'm like, "All right, I'm in.
I'm done." That's the way we do it.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, right. So that's on there. Mission Viejo out in California.
Okay.
Which is honestly the magazine that got me into quarry fishing. Was about that place. There's an angler out there. It's electric motor only and stuff. And where all he does is throw these like just annoyingly large trailered 1/2-ounce football jigs and just trying to catch. And he's catching, 13, 15, 16 pounders off beds and stuff like that. And, so that's really what got me into actually quarry fishing or trying it. So that's one of my bucket list spots. And I want to suffer the pain too of catching a Goliath grouper. Yeah, it's one thing I've always wanted to do.
That one I hear a lot. A lot of people. That's a big bucket list.
They literally look like if you took a smallmouth and then gave it the same gamma radiation that the Hulk got.
Yeah,
that's pretty much what happens. You get a Goliath grouper. And I've heard of people like the owner of Netcraft, he used to fish my dad and stuff. And I said, "Oh man, I want to catch one of those." He goes, "No, you don't." And I was like, "What?" And he says, "I did it once. It's terrible.
It's not fun."
he's like, "I fought it for 2 hours and I threw up uncontrollably for like another 30 minutes." So I was just so exhausted and dehydrated.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, something like that, honestly, and honestly, even like the Amazon for even though there's multiple versions of them, but like what they call wolf fish.
Oh, okay.
Where you're just throwing like literally like 12-inch plugs and stuff, and these like you're fishing in like it seems like a foot of water, and you're in like thick rainforest kind of stuff, and like these just huge like crazy predator fish just come out of nowhere and just detonate on these things. That's one of the places that's always kind of interested me too.
That's awesome. Now, this show is the cornerstone is all about fishing stories. So I want you to share with us 2 stories. The first one is like the moment when you were on the water that you were most proud of. It could be anything. It could be like that moment where you had developed maybe that flipping jig that you're just like, nope, this is the one. It could be that moment where, you know, maybe something went crazy on the water and you were there to kind of like fix it. It could be a PB, who knows? But share that story with me. And then on the flip side, because every angler's got one, I need your biggest moment of all time.
So probably my most proud moment, I would say, would actually be catching my PB, honestly. Up in once again, it's a quarry that's basically right on the Ohio-Michigan line. And it's when I was testing what is now my the flipping jig per se. You know, this was kind of like, okay, this was what I thought to believe, which it was, you know, my final design revision of the flipping jig. And now I'm going to really start putting on market and stick behind it now. Kind of the last testing before it, my buddy called me and says, hey, do you want to fish this quarry with me and stuff? Out of a canoe, which is absolutely horrendous to fish out of, especially for somebody of my size. But anyways, like I got it to where I could only feel stable if I was basically like casting behind me. So I was just wing and cast out over my shoulder.
Yep.
And then it was like shallow, a little bit weedy. But I was just kind of twitching it and dragging along the bottom, you know, back to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm swimming it back. And like I said, you start seeing that like where it kind of jets to the left, jets to the right. And all of a sudden I look down, you know, because when I'm swimming it, like I can't really see it that much because I'm faced the other direction.
Yep.
And when I know it's close enough, I look down and all I see is mouth.
Oh, okay.
Coming up. And this fish ended up as a 7-1.
Nice.
You know, 7 pound 1 ounce, and which not many of those in Ohio. There's some, but very few.
Yeah, definitely not an everyday fish for sure.
Right. And literally, the thing just engulfed the thing right by the boat. And
That's awesome.
I set the hook and stuff. And I'm the biggest believer in boat flipping like crazy. I am not agile enough to grab the net in time. So that's why I always throw heavy rod. I'm fishing heavy rods. Yep. But yeah, you know, honestly, it was kind of cool to see that, you know, like proof is in the pudding kind of thing, right? You know, like, oh, hey, it looks like big fish do like this. Yeah. You know, a lot of those like kind of most proud moments are like the day when I realized like, hey, I had a great day fishing. I caught a bunch of big fish and a bunch of fish, period. And literally all I threw was stuff that I designed. You know, like those are kind of cool moments.
It's like the best feeling ever. You know, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, you know, and the funny part is with that too is everybody thinks like I have the craziest tackle collection, and it's the farthest thing from the truth. Yeah. Most of the time, I'm grabbing like a couple of jigs and a spinnerbait off the peg hooks and loading them in my pocket and going. You know, which is I used to be a collector and I learned quick that it's a bad idea.
Yep,
you know?
Definitely.
So, but yeah, so like those kind of moments, you know, just really. You know, like I said, being able to fish the whole day, and now obviously as diverse as my product line's gotten, it's a little bit easier. Then it's like, oh man, well, I'm going to beat this flipping jig to death. You know, now I've obviously got a more diverse lineup.
Yeah.
As far as the other side of it, the least proud, and I'm going to say it's. I don't want to say that it's necessarily strictly on me.
Yep.
But me and my buddy, who I've never had a non-comical fishing story with, it just seems like anytime something will go wrong, it's when I'm with him.
Yeah, I got a friend like that too.
Yeah, and so anyways, we're fishing. It's a private quarry. Like they're all like $1 million homes on this thing, and I'm like 6'4", 260.
Yep.
My buddy's spec is probably 6'4", and he was at the time. I mean, he's you know, thankfully he's lost some weight now. I'm proud of him, but you know, he was probably a solid beefy like 350 area,
okay. All right.
Big guy, right? and we're in a nice 10-foot baby blue Pelican bass raider.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So you were pushing the limits of.
Yeah. So, I mean, of course, like I always do everything overkill. So I have like a transom mount trolling motor on it in the front.
Of course.
But then I have like 2 H7 AGM batteries in it, which are like 100 pounds a piece.
Oh, yeah.
So now we got, me, him, plus those batteries, we're tipping the scales, and then plus all the tackle I used to bring.
Oh, yeah.
That's in between us. Like with everything on board, like we're pushing the scales at 1,000 pounds on this boat. It's probably rated for, I don't know, 300, some stupid, but we're fishing in like literally 55 foot of water, like clear water. And it's like 40 degrees because it's early spring, and quarries take a while to heat up.
Yep.
And the whole day we're like fishing, and he's like, man, does this seem like this boat's riding lower than usual? Because like he's been in it before, stuff, And I'm like,
I feel like I know where this is going.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, yeah, but like it doesn't, like, I don't know, like we got a lot of weight in here, so it's probably fine. And but anyways, and like as the day goes on, like it's the most gradual change.
Yeah.
Like it just keeps getting a little bit lower and a little bit lower and a little bit lower. And so the boats don't keep water out of them when the plugs aren't in them.
Oh, no.
And
dude.
So the Pelican Bass Raider, or at least the one I had, it has 2 drain plugs up in the front of the boat.
Okay.
So when you get out, you tub it up, unload it, and it's just your standard, where they kind of just swell up as you tighten them, plugs. And our only saving grace was that he was in the back with the batteries. So it helped kind of keep the nose up a little bit.
So it wasn't taking on water as fast.
Right.
Yeah.
But so all of a sudden, like when we kind of realized like, oh, this definitely isn't all right. Like at the time, like those things float pretty high. And we got like 2 inches until it's about to break the surface. And of course, I got the trolling motor on high. Of course, it's like a 55-pound thrust trolling motor. It's not going anywhere super fast.
Yep.
And stuff. And I got him paddling in the back. Like we're trying to get to the beach as soon as we can. We go to run this thing onto the beach per se, and we got stopped. Like, and roughly, I want to say like we got stopped like a solid like 25 feet from the beach because we were sitting so low. Once again, that's like something that's normally like, basically barely in the water. And like we literally like we got to the beach and we couldn't lift it. There was so much water in the boat that we couldn't like lift it to drain it at all.
Oh my God.
So we had to have like a couple of like the people, and God bless him, once again, he's just a goofy guy, period. Mm-hmm. He's in cowboy boots, jean shorts that are a little bit too high. And then he's got, just chest hair just rocking out in like a bro tank. And
that's awesome.
And of course, you got me looking like Grizzly Adams, who's like at this super rich people place, and I'm in like all camo. So we look great. And we had to have like a couple of the people that live right by the beach help us like get the boat up enough to where we could freaking drain some of that water out. So when you look back on that, like that could have went a lot worse. For sure.
I have always wanted to have an artist do an animation to the stories of some of these fails, but I have never wanted to have a story done in animation more than that story right there.
Oh,
Cody, that is awesome.
Yeah, and it was just like me just being like, oh, I've been on boats before. I feel confident. Like everything's fine.
Like it's gonna be.
Of course, I wouldn't forget anything.
No.
Right?
Dude, I think I would just settle for a picture of his buddy drawn out because this sounds great.
That
Cowboy
sounds
boots, Daisy Dukes, a tank top, and chest hair spilling everywhere. That's phenomenal.
All I got.
Yeah, we were going night fishing one time in August, and like once again, I mean, obviously August is always incredibly hot.
Yep.
It's like 98 degrees, and like we're night fishing, so it's going to get a little bit colder. But I think like the coldest temp for the day was like 88 and muggy. Like, it was, like just unreal.
Yeah.
And he shows up in like these boots that are like all the way up to the knee, like waterproof boots. And he's wearing shorts and like a tank again. And I was like, dude, what are you doing? he's like, I don't want my feet to get cold. I was like, dude, it's 90 degrees. Like, what are you talking about? Like,
That's freaking hilarious. I think,
yeah,
Sean, I think we've decided what my 2021 outfit's going to be is a painfully high jorts. And
yeah. Well, yeah. I think
that's
Daisy Duke's so short the pockets are spilling out, and cowboy boots. Sounds like
right.
Done deal.
Sounds like where we're going.
I mean, honestly, he caught a lot of fish that day, so I think it helped.
Sounds like a lucky outfit.
I love it, man.
Bobby, do you mind if I jump in with one question?
Go for it. Yeah, fire away.
It's something that he said a little while ago in one of the other questions, but Cody, one of the things, and you know, it's everybody in every walk of life. Everyone develops their own language and has their own terms and stuff. And you mentioned a term earlier, and I want to get your definition of it. So you mentioned catching a smaller fish, a squealer.
Yeah.
What is the origin and definition of that term? And I will tell you why I'm asking when you're done.
Okay, so honestly, I have just picked up so many random of these like weird like word replacements and sayings and stuff from my dad that like I can't control it. Like and squealer is one of them. You know, you catch a bass that's like 12 inches or less, it's a squealer. You know, and I keep finding myself like saying all this stuff that like I used to make fun of him for. Like, Dad, that's so lame. Like, what are you doing? And I can't control it. It's terrible. Like, I haven't said it. I'm going to focus really hard to say it. Like, you know, like if you say like, oh, it's irrelevant, right? Well, the only thing I can ever say anymore is it's all an elephant. It's just one of those weird things that like he always said as a saying, and I can't not do it. Like it's almost like the guy at work, right? When it says like, oh, hey, how you doing? And like he begrudgingly says like, oh, you know, living the dream, right? And then like wants to punch himself afterwards. It's the same thing. I can't do it. I can't not say it. It's
just part of you. You can't do it. So go on, Sean.
Oh, well, the squealer term we've developed over the years, nibbler, as anything that's 12 inches and under, right? So any fish, if you catch a 6-inch bass, it's a nibbler, but we have a special designation for those that are between 9 and 9.9999 repeating size. So anything that's a 9-inch nibbler, as we all know, NIN. Hey, you're from Ohio, man. There's NIN right there, old Trent Reznor. So anything that's 9 inches is a Trent.
A true Trent.
It's just it mutated. Yeah, it went from nibblers to now there's a specific kind of nibbler, but anything under 12 inches for us because they're not legal or a nibbler, and you know it's not like a 12-inch fish or an 11-inch fish is going to hit that hard, so they nibble. So I was just curious if squealer had as ridiculous as a definition. This one sounds like it's inherited, and if you're I don't know if your dad's still around, maybe ask him like where did squealer originate, because that sounds funny.
Yeah, I'll have to, because honestly, I've just always assumed that's what everybody called them, and that's not necessarily the case.
I love it.
So on the flip side, what do you guys call big bass?
Name it.
I have
pigs, hogs,
slaunch dog. Oh, ditch pickle. That's one of my favorite ones. I love
that's
ditch
a good
pickle.
one.
I, for some reason, I call them gorillas.
Gorillas.
Yeah. Buddy catches a big one. I'm like, oh, dude, that's a gorilla.
I could see that. Yeah. I could definitely see that.
I've been throwing Kraken around for a few years because, you know, we're coastal. You got Kraken out in the waters, obviously off Cape Cod. You got great whites and Kraken. So, yeah, I caught the Kraken.
I love it. I freaking love it. All right. So, Cody, I mean, that's generally our interview. Why don't you let people know where they can find out more about JIGMASTERS, like anything that you have coming up that you kind of want to promote a little bit, any appearances or anything like that? Go ahead. This is your moment to promote yourself.
Yeah, no. So, obviously, you know, the website is, just jigmasters.com. I was lucky enough to get that URL, so that makes it easy.
Perfect.
And honestly, I keep telling myself I'm going to take a year off to like not launch many new products, and I just can't stop. You know, I just keep putting new stuff out. So there are a few interesting baits coming out here in the very near future. Kind of my take on a jig trailer / punching bait combo.
Nice.
The 4-inch crawl that I'm designing.
Yep.
I'm going to start doing some drop shot stuff even. Nice. And then I finally have a finesse jig coming out, and people have been beating the piss out of me that I don't have a finesse jig out.
Yeah.
But my biggest issue was I could never really get too inspired trying to design one, because I would get I was like, wonder what's all out there. And they're like, they're just all ball heads. Like
a lot of them
90% of them.
Yeah.
But anyways, I basically have modified my flipping head, and the skirt and trailer keeper, which will be using a center pin screw lock.
Yep.
Is not around the hook. It's actually coming off of where the weed guard would be. So, So now you're going to have a weedless rigged, non-weed guarded finesse jig.
Yep. That's cool.
So I'm pretty excited for that. And then I got like a shaky head coming out and stuff. So, a lot of new stuff constantly coming out. I don't think I've went 2 months without launching a new product. So, and then as far as the other places to, find us is, at JIGMASTERS Tackle is the Facebook page.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Instagram is, once again, it's just at JIGMASTERS.
Awesome.
And one thing I always love, especially in the podcast, and I tell everybody, if you don't quite know, hey, what lures should I be using for these kind of scenarios and stuff, please always reach out. That's one thing that I will say has grown a lot for the business is how many people now say, hey, look, here's where I'm fishing. And here's kind of the conditions, what do you recommend? And, they'll just say, hey, put me a pack together for $50 and, just invoice me and you pick them. One of the things that I really, always find important is, when people come to buy stuff, I want them to have a good experience, right?
Definitely.
So I always want to, I always do my best to, pick out the right stuff for their location and, kind of scenario.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And that's above and beyond what generally you're going to get from any other kind of tackle maker. That's for sure. They're just going to offer a million different colors and you take your best bet, Like I said, especially, first time ordering stuff like that, I want everybody to have a great experience. Yep. Right. And I don't want to lead them astray because, if, for example, if they're in northern Wisconsin and they order a 1 ounce flipping jig, they're probably not going to have a great time. Exactly.
Right? And, it's just kind of not what those fish are into. They like slow falling rates, stuff like that. When I see that stuff, I kind of cringe, right? I'm like, well, crap, there's not a repeat customer.
Definitely. Because you can kind of see the writing on the wall, like the experience that they're going to have. Real quick, what's your best selling product?
Well, I will say, and it gets a little inflated just because it was the first two, but the flipping jig, if you look at it, quarterly and stuff, is always consistently the number one.
Yeah.
I will say that the spinnerbaits are really starting to take off.
Cool.
But that swim bait I designed is really starting to sell. And I'm excited because I did put a lot of work in that one.
Yeah.
It's a bait that you get a great still paddle kind of tail action, even at like super slow speeds.
Mm-hmm.
And they're more durable than a lot of the other paddle tails that are out there. That's the one issue. You catch one fish and they're gone and they're not that cheap.
Yeah, exactly. They go quick.
Yeah, right. So, so that's the swim bait and the flipping jig. They're really starting to catch on.
That's awesome, man. Well, Cody, this was really great, man. Really, really awesome. I'm glad we were able to do it. I love your slogan. It's something I tell people all the time when they're asking, oh, yeah, I don't know about fishing here. What should I do? When in doubt, get the jig out. It works all the time.
Yeah. It's not a misleading statement.
Yeah.
When I came up with that, a lot of people kind of made that comment. You're like, oh my God, it's so true.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Like, well, once again, there's no, I try to do everything, kind of in a moral fashion.
Yeah.
I don't want to lead people astray. I don't want to price gouge people. I kind of want to change how a lot of the fishing industry is starting to turn.
Yeah. I hear you. I can definitely see that. And it's good. I think you're doing good stuff there, and that's important.
I appreciate it.
Awesome. All right, take care, Cody. Have a great one, man, and we'll talk to you soon. All right.
All righty. Thanks for having me, guys.
Take care, buddy.
Thanks a lot, Cody.
Bye bye. guys. How was that for a Tuesday right here? It's spring. Life is just budding all around us. I got the crocuses going crazy in my backyard. That's like my signal right there that spring is here. We got a great live stream coming up tomorrow, St. Patrick's Day. That's on the Jigs and Bigs YouTube channel and the Jigs and Bigs Facebook page. That's at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Come and check it out. With no idea who we're going to have on for guests necessarily, but that's half the fun. You know, we just get a bunch of folks together and make it all happen. So hopefully we can make this all work. I will be messaging people on Instagram feverishly, like within the hours leading up to it, to get, share links and stuff of people who are into it. So it's going to be great. I'm hoping that we can have some friends out in Texas that get in touch with us and go live with us. So that could be pretty cool. I don't know, man. This is it. Let's get out and fish. Let's do it.
I have one last thing to add that I didn't add during my tournament spiel.
Oh, fire away.
It's not really tournament related, but it is MAKB and Old Glory related. So as MAKB members and, customers of Old Glory, they're going to want to hear this.
Yeah.
Old Glory is a sponsor of MAKB. I don't know if we've announced that or talked about it. Mm-hmm. There's more on that coming. But for members, 20% off discount at Old Glory. That's nice.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge.
Don't just go out and get a membership to MAKB if you're not in Massachusetts looking for a discount for Old Glory. I mean, that's kind of silly, but because really the membership comes in for tournaments, but it's a nice little side benefit for the members.
Yep.
So if you are a member of MAKB and you're listening to the show, the discount code is valid just like the Jigs and Bigs one, either at the counter or online. So enjoy.
Sweet. And if you're not an MAKB member, you can always save at Jigs and Bigs at Old Glory Outdoors using our promo code Jigs and Bigs. So we're just here. We're slanging out deals all over the place.
Slanging.
I like that.
We're slinging deals like ripping Newports.
I slang a deal like a ripping Newport. I don't know why I gave Cody that accent. That's close.
No. Yeah, that's more close. Like Midwest cowboy, not Maryland. Backwoods.
Oh, so many geese and beavers and crazy animals. You got I will say this, a little bit of a tip out there, that the story for the epic fishing fail that Cody shares with us in his upcoming interview. We're talking about Cody Van Zandt. That story is going to blow you away. Like, it's intense. It is super intense. You were fly on the wall for this, weren't you, Sean? Or no? Or was it just the two of us?
Was it? No, I did not hear this one. It was just you guys.
I think it was just the two of us. Yeah, it is a doozy. It is a doozy.
It's crazier than his frogging story and his fox and hound story.
I'm so glad you brought up the frogging story. So I think this is a little bit more harrowing. And it involves a lot of alcohol. Mainly pertaining to the party he was with. It was just a shit show. You have to listen to it. You'll love it. It's so good. It's so good. And that's coming up in just a couple of weeks. So you guys get ready for that one. It's going to be a doozy. But the one thing that I do want to mention, I'm glad that you brought up the frogging story about the water bugs. I was watching a YouTube video this morning with my 11-year-old, right? We're having breakfast together on the couch and we're watching this YouTube video. And there is this YouTuber, I think he's out in California, and he just does some like super clown. He likes to do these like cooking things where he does these, what do you call it? Like Google Translate will do a recipe and then it comes out all messed up because it's Google Translate. It's all like half, cohesive language, and it comes out and he does these loose interpretations of these recipes, and he's just this big clown. Anyway, he was doing this unboxing of just like random items that viewers had sent him, and one of the things in there were dried water bugs.
Yeah, they're a delicacy in Southwest Asia.
Yeah, and I'm like, but the first thing I thought of was, oh yeah, they're huge. And the first thing I thought of was Cody's frogging mission.
Yeah, so for the uninitiated, this frogging adventure was a nighttime.
Why? I think this might end up on the show, so I don't want to give away too much.
Well, I'm going to tease.
Okay.
So nighttime, barefoot, frog gigging adventure where there were numerous misplaced water snakes, a giant water bug bite that sent him to the ER, and all of this was fueled by some heavy-duty hallucinogenics.
Yes.
You guys have to hear this story.
So when we say
insane.
that these are wild and that they truly do make Shaun the Fisherman stories seem like Pixar movies, like we're not making it up. This is going to be Cody is a whole other element right here. Eric jumps in. He says, what's wrong with ripping a Newport? Nothing's wrong with ripping a Newport. Ain't nothing wrong with ripping a Newport. You rip what you got to rip.
We got to get Cody and Eric together. We got to smoke all day. Yep. Great.
Oh, goodness.
Now, the question is, see, we've watched Cody rip Newports on video. Are they like 100s? Are they the pool cues? I can't tell.
I don't know. Are they the Slims, you think?
No, the big ones, the pool cues. You know what I mean? If you're
I would
smoking
never peg him for Newport being his brand. I honestly would peg him for like a Lucky Strike or like a Camel Unfiltered.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Bad.
Something like that.
Black Death tobacco. You ever had Black Death?
No, I used
to smoke. I smoked that in college.
I'm a cigar smoker. I have never been into cigarettes at all.
Oh, really? I thought you smoked.
Nope.
No.
Never been into cigarettes at all. Never.
So I was smoking when we started working together, and when I went away to college for 1 year, one of my buddies had said, have you ever tried this tobacco? And it was literally called Black Death, and there was a skull and crossbones on it.
And you're like, no, but I'm about to.
Dude, well, we rolled our own, and it was like you could not
finish a small rolled cigarette of that in a day. Like in a day. If you want smoking, way to go. Just start drinking. Just start.
You dropped out for like a second there. And the audio distortion actually made it sound like you had an artificial voice box, like you were smoking out of a trach ring.
Well, you know what? With the amount of Black Death tobacco I smoked, I suppose that's an inevitability.
It could happen.
That was dumb. Oh my God. What kind of human being was I when I was 18 and 19? Stupid.
We thought we were invincible, you know? I'm going to watch after this. I'll let you know. Yes, Eric, definitely. Can't recommend it. Go give Fishing for Answers a view over on the Hookshead Hoodlums YouTube channel. Check that out. Like, again, we said it is, and they even went so far as to put a disclaimer up there where you have to check, yes, I want to proceed, because it is not good for all audiences. It's definitely some adult content there, but fun stuff.
No.
All great entertainment. The reactions of Andrew and Ken and Bill are just priceless. So I think that about does it for us. I think we got everything in that we need to so far.
Yeah, I'm good, man.
Okay, good. Guys, have yourself a good one. Get out there, catch some fish, man. Spring has sprung. If you have open water, get out there and enjoy. If you don't have open water yet, it's coming. It's coming, man. We're in New England, and we've got open water here, so it is game on. Remember, get your gear for your tackle boxes. Stock up over at Old Glory Outdoors. You go to oldgloryoutdoors.com. Use the code Jigs and Bigs to gear up and save yourself a little money. If you need some kayak modifications, maybe you need some electronics, maybe you need some new rod holders, maybe you need a new yak, go over to Three Bells Outfitters. They're going to take great care of you. And don't forget to ask about that white glove service for delivery as well, especially if you're in the Northeast and you know you want to have your stuff well taken care of. Guys, we appreciate you. Have a good one. Take good care of yourselves, and remember, as always, tight life. Hey,
Underneath.
ma. Hey,
Underneath.
ma. Hey,
Underneath.
ma.
Fuck the internet.
Yeah.